What's up, Chicago? Welcome to another late night edition of The Bare Minimum. I'm Dustin Jones. That's Brandon DePlacy. This is Four Star Chicago Sports. We're going to get into a very Bears centric episode here. Got to talk a lot about what this offensive line is going to be capable of in our minds, what these offensive weapons are going to be capable of, and fantasy wise, where we think these Bears players stack up against each other, who we think is going to be the most valuable fantasy asset on the Chicago Bears. We'll get into some headlines, deadlines, and our top 5 favorite picks of this draft. All that and more when we get back. Thanks for being here. It's Thursday. It's 11:30 at night. We're a little late, but whatever. This is the bare minimum, Brandon. I got some Jameson, man. It's been a long day at work. How you feeling? Oh, there
Feeling
he
good.
goes. It's a good start. You're blacked out to start the show. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Sorry.
working on getting the charger plugged in. Feeling good, man. Feeling good. Took a little bit of nap after work. Starting a new job, guys. Wearing me out a little bit, but I'm doing good. How you doing?
I am great. No complaints from me. Life is good. I am excited about what's to come. I am excited about what's to come with the Chicago Bears. I'm excited to have Brandon in the building with us. The other Brandon, this is another Brandon. It's not you, Brandon. Brandon Hollum, Luther Bear Den. I don't know. I don't know about that,
I
but
like it. I like
I
it.
I appreciate the gusto. Um, man, where do you want to start with this today? Because this is also exciting. It's moving fast, man. The draft just happened. There's just it seems like every day there's something new to talk about. Like today, Ryan Poles, in a guest spot, started talking about this offensive line, and more specifically, what everyone really picked up on was what he said about Ozzie Trapillo, that he plans on starting him on the left side. That the Bears plan on starting him out on the left side and seeing what he has there. I think that's a huge development. I don't think you draft a guy in the second round to be a swing tackle. So obviously they want to find a place for him. And if you're looking for a place, the left tackle makes the most sense along this offensive line, Brando. How do you feel about this? Because I think it makes all the sense in the world. Trapillo starting out with a chance to play that left tackle role.
Yeah, the Bears found vision for this kid's future, man. I was asking on the Monday show when we kind of recapped the Bears picks one by one, where this guy fits in the Bears' future plans, and we kind of discussed he's a little too big to play guard, so we knew if Joe Tooney were to retire, let's say at the end of this season, it wasn't going to be there. So
What up, Bruce?
I was hoping to hear something like this, Dustin. I really was, and I don't think Braxton Jones is the worst left tackle in the NFL. But if you think you've got something better, make the move now. I mean, don't like everybody was kind of talking about the future aspirations of this kid potentially playing eventually. You know what I mean? Like, if this kid is pound for pound better than Braxton Jones is at keeping Caleb Williams upright, then he needs to be playing week one.
Yeah, I don't know if that changes though, Brandon, just because of what Poles said today. I think he will still be a work in progress. Whether or not he earns that starting left tackle job, I mean, Braxton having the injury right now certainly would help him in that competition. And also, Braxton Jones has been a replacement level player. You're hoping he can do better and he can get better, but I mean, he's a fifth round tackle, and you just haven't seen what you want to see from a guy that you're going to pay starting NFL left tackle money from Braxton Jones. So if there are other options, I'm good with it. Explore those options. I think this is more about exploring those options to
Well,
Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears.
and if before you decide not to pay Braxton Jones, you like Poles said out of his own mouth, you got to know what you got. You have to know what you have in this kid. This can't be a Karan
Author,
Amagaji situation all over again. Karan played 2 games last year. There is no way, based off what Karan Amagaji did last season, you can determine this season if he's worth starting at any position on your line.
Well,
So
how do you
you're gonna.
determine that this season if Ozzie Trapillo is now in the mix and Braxton Jones is still in the mix?
But
I think the best player is just going to come out of this victorious, man. I mean, it's like
yeah, and that's what
The
needs to
Joker
happen.
breaking off that pool stick and throwing it in there and saying the whoever fucking comes out is the one that I'm taking with me. That's what this feels like, and I want that from this. I want that from this Bears team, from my football team, man. I want there to be competition that drives everyone to be better. And Karan Amagaji didn't get a fair
Someone's
shot.
gonna die.
For sure. I mean, and it'll be Caleb Williams if they don't figure this shit out, Brandon. So that's what you don't want. So this makes sense to me, and that's what I said on Monday as well, man. You're planting a lot of seeds. You're trying to see what grows the tallest, basically, right? And if Trapillo has an opportunity at that makes all the sense in the world, given he was a second round pick. Karan Amagaji, the book is still not written on him as well. You know, like you said, only a couple of chances to show what he had last year, and it was an injury riddled season for him, and just he didn't really get a chance to get his legs underneath him. I think all of the options that they have, I think that's the biggest thing, right? You had 2 tackles last year. One of them was replacement level, and one was Darnell Wright. And when one of them went down, you had absolutely nothing behind them.
Well, I was just gonna
Now
say,
you have more options, which is a good thing.
and the importance of Karan Amagashi might end up coming at right tackle. I mean,
Yeah,
Darnell
for
Wright's
sure.
going to need a quality backup or a guy that can at least hold his own behind him in case he has an injury.
Hey, listen, we got Brandon in the chat. We got Breaking News Bruce, Foster in the building, Notorious TBG. Guys, if y'all got something you want to talk about, please throw it out there. You got some questions, we will answer them. We got all the time in the world for you tonight. Brandon, you with me? Wake up. Let's get this going. Get the juices flowing. This is the bare minimum, bro. This is the bare minimum. I'm stoked about this offensive line. I really am. I think that it's easy to look at it and say, well, what happened last year? Are they that much better? What should you expect from this Bears offensive line? They allowed 68 sacks last year. This is that point is just, it's so missing like the actual scope of what's going on in front of you, in my mind, because this is an extremely revamped offensive line. You can have worries about the depth, man, but you're going to have worries about depth at every position in the NFL. You cannot be starter quality deep across your offensive line in the NFL with the way things are set up. The Bears have done a really good job. And in this draft, they added Luke Newman, who is a versatile player, right? Who can move along that interior and be a replacement for multiple guys if whichever one were to go down. And Trapillo potentially could be that guy as well, or Karan could be that guy. And you still got Braxton Jones and you still got Darnell Wright. I look at this offensive line, Brandon, and I see vast improvement from what we were going into last year with, and then obviously what we finished the year with. I feel that personally.
Yeah, and if you want to base how you feel about these guys off of what happened last season, it's already better. I mean, it can only go up, right? I mean, you're not going to allow 68 sacks. That's for damn sure, Dustin. I bet my life on it. It's not going to happen. Joe Tooney alone is vast improvement on the entire interior line, just having that coach on the field. But Dahlman's obviously an upgrade from Shelton. I mean, every single position got
That's what
better.
Brandon's talking
And
about here.
in my mind, even I know these two next to each other, man, should frighten every defensive tackle in the NFL that's going to play this Bears team. But
It's a
Dustin,
very different thing.
we've pointed out before. In my mind, Braxton Jones got better because of the improvements on this line.
Yes.
So yeah,
yes, it should make life easier on your weakest link, given that you've strengthened it so much in other spots. Joe Tooney, Jonah Jackson, we don't know what he's going to be. I think Jonah Jackson and Braxton Jones, if you're looking at this, those are your 2 biggest question marks in this offensive line. You can talk about the Dahlman injury history, but at the same time, like, why did the Bears go sign the guy if it was that concerning? He's a really good starting center in the NFL, obviously much better than what we had last year. So I think that there's no way to look at it besides the Bears have done an awful lot of work and spent an awful lot of money and time really just revamping this offensive line in a way that you don't often see in one off season. And I feel like the lack of credit for that and it feels like major concern from a lot of people. I mean, even our co-hosts Kyle and Sean, like, it feels like major concern when it's just like, I don't feel it, I don't see it. Am I missing something in terms of what the Bears have done along this O-line? Notorious, if you got an answer for me, let me know. Brandon, do you have an answer for me?
No, I'm with you. They've because you just mentioned the weakest link, which I know a lot of people are as strong as your weakest link, but your strongest link became an all-pro player who's won multiple Super Bowls.
Tide that raises all
and
boats.
He's playing right next to your weakest link. And then, like I stated before on Monday, Dustin, just think that, let's just say Jonah Jackson suffers an injury, and Bill Murray, whoever it might be, Ryan Bates has to plug in Luke Newman. The talent that he's going to play between is worlds better than he would have been, whoever would have been last season, right? So I mean, you're not talking about playing next to Coleman Shelton if the rookie Luke Newman needs to step in there for a few games. You're playing next to Drew Dolman. That makes a difference. The offensive line is cohesive. It has to play as a unit. And it didn't feel that way last year, right? It felt like everybody was kind of doing their own thing.
Because there were people constantly moving in and out of the lineup, a lot of injuries.
If I remember correctly, there was a play where Nate Davis was blocking Coleman Shelton. I don't see things like that happening.
Well, listen, cohesion is the biggest thing for an offensive line, and this offensive line, that's one concern that you've pointed out. I don't know if you did that intentionally, but like cohesion is one concern you can have for this O-line. It's a lot of new parts that you've added, and these guys got to get familiarized with each other, and they got to learn how to play off of each other, and they got to be that unit, and that's going to be hugely important. So that is one thing where you can have a little bit of trepidation, I would say. But let's go real quick. I want to ask you that. Let's go back to last year. This is where I really keep focusing when it comes to this offensive line. Last year, going into that season, what was the competition? You want to talk about depth this year. What was the competition last year for your starting offensive line spots? It was Coleman Shelton and Ryan Bates for your center position. It was what? Who was competing with Nate Davis? Nate Davis was just gifted a spot, and he wasn't even at OTAs.
I was just going to say this. It was so bad that a guy who should have probably been cut on any other NFL team,
because he didn't even show up,
guaranteed starter,
gifted the job. Yeah. Now this year you have Jonah Jackson, who listen, I don't believe for a second that if Luke Newman comes into training camp and tears ass and kills it, that Ben Johnson would not give him a shot at that starting job over Jonah Jackson if he was the better player. I don't believe that for a second. And that's really my point. There was no competition last year on this offensive line. Just that alone makes a huge difference. If you got Trapillo and Braxton Jones and Karan all fighting for that left tackle spot, and then the loser is going to be a backup left tackle or a backup right tackle, now you got some fire under your ass. They didn't have any of this last year. This is a huge difference, guys. Huge difference.
And the composer, Dustin, I mean, really, like, the orchestra will fail if nobody's there to lead it. Chris Morgan was
god awful ass.
There's no other way to say it. This guy existed through two coaching tenures, and nobody knows why. Because not only did the unit suck as a whole, nobody developed, nobody got better. So
we got to erase the hate in the building. Happy to see you.
So we got a guy who's got 40 plus years experience, Dustin, at cohesion. You know what I mean? At making this work. That's a big difference to me too. And that's overlooked, man. A lot of fans, with their concerns about both sides of the trenches, have not, I would even say, have neglected the fact to see that there's different people leading these groups, man.
Hold on, we can get to Dan Rocher because that is a huge. I feel like you just neglected my point. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, is that a solid point? If you're talking about this offensive line, Brandon, like the amount of competition that we have going into this year versus the complete lack of it last year, do you not think that will make a big difference in the performance of this offensive line? Guys fighting for their jobs and having even those options versus you had zero last year?
Well, yeah, and not only will it, the guys who were starters are going to be your depth most likely, man. And I said this before.
Ryan Bates,
you want a guy who's played some starting football before to be there in case of an injury, right? And I know you've got two rookies, so those guys are going to have to learn as they grow. But I mean, I feel comfortable with the fact that these guys were starters on a football team before,
at some point. You know, Bill Murray filled in one game, right? Yeah,
that might step into his starting role. That's important too, man.
Yeah, and when you improve the starters so much, as I've said before, that trickles down. That depth now becomes that much better just because again, you're not throwing a guy who shouldn't be starting consistently into that starting role, and then if that guy goes down, you're filling it in with a guy who's worse than that guy. It's
Yeah,
it's it's leveled up in a serious way.
you got a $1 bill in your pocket and you find a $10 bill on the sidewalk, you still got a $1 bill in your pocket. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, so,
Yeah,
yeah,
Bill and
it's
and Brian Bates is a $1 bill worth a fifth round draft pick, and now he's a backup where he should be. Last year, we were pushing for a guard that the Bears traded a fifth round pick for to be our starting center. This year, we have Drew Dahlman sitting in there ready to go, and there is competition on either side of him. That Braxton Jones, Trapillo, Karan, one of those guys is going to come out victorious, and then that in and of itself will improve your depth behind, because the guy who loses is going to will have been fighting their ass off to start and is a better caliber player than the guys we had on this roster last year. That's just flat out plain and simple to me. And I think that's where it all starts, man. We know that's where it all starts, the offensive line.
and
Notorious
Ben
agrees.
and
Better
Ben
talent, better
Johnson.
leadership, real quick. Better talent, better leadership, better characters, better availability, and better depth. 100%
Well
Notorious.
said, Notorious.
Yeah.
And Ben Johnson stated before, and I think it was like his second
And that's a
interview as the
good point,
Bears head
too.
coach. You really want, he said, I think 9 to 10 quality players. Quality players, Dustin. I
Not
think
starters.
I
Yeah.
think that they at least have like 7 or 8. So let's say they missed the mark by 1 or 2. It's still a vast improvement from what they had.
I mean,
And
even if you think about it, like if you think about it in basketball terms, you got a starting five. You go into the playoffs when it matters most. That's a 7-8 man rotation. You're rotating in and out. 2-3 guys. Even if you have 8 quality, if you can shoot for 10, but if you end up with 8, Brandon, like you just said, that's still pretty damn good by NFL standards, man. It is. I honestly feel more confident in Luke Newman as a backup guard this year, and this could be me being crazy. You tell me. I honestly feel more confident in Luke Newman as a backup guard this year than I would have felt with Nate Davis as a backup guard last year. More
yeah,
confidence.
absolutely. And I certainly feel better with Luke Newman as a backup guard this year than I did Nate Davis as a starter last year.
Yeah,
So
that seemed too obvious. I didn't want to say that.
yeah,
Even
so
Nate Davis as
no,
a backup.
I know. I'm making the point that like
Yeah.
that's exactly what you've been saying, man. Is like that's how good you can feel. Your starters improved, which means, like you said, naturally the depth improved with it.
Yep.
When the
And then
starter
we
became your depth improved.
And then we haven't talked about what I said, Brandon, what I texted you guys the moment we traded for Joe Tooney. It wasn't about, and you've been talking about it since as well. It's the biggest thing in this trade. It was, and I said it on our bare minimum show that night. This is a trade that changes your culture, and it does that because this guy has been in winning buildings, winning football games with great coaches and great leadership, and been a part of that leadership. And now you take him and insert him on an offensive line that was in desperate need of a kick in the ass, and he will give it every day at practice and every Sunday on the football field. Joe Tooney is a leader on the field. He's going to be a coach on the field. The impact he will have on guys like Darnell Wright, and hey, what if Ozzie Trapillo ends up starting right next to him? You got a rookie left tackle start. What if he earns that job? You got Joe Tooney right next to him. What a fucking awesome thing that is, man. How
Well, yeah,
beautiful is that?
and I mean Kyle and Sean kind of, and we talked a lot about Joe Tooney and kind of like you guys think, and they weren't no ill intentions. They asked us like, you guys really think a lot of this guy, because I think you acquired more than just talent when you signed Joe Tooney. I think you acquired something the Bears just simply clearly didn't have, Dustin. They did not have a single player on the roster that just stood out as somebody who's going to be in charge of the rest of that locker room. To me, they didn't. They
No,
did
well,
not
they had
have
no
anyone on
leadership.
this team.
No. Your best leader was a rookie quarterback in Caleb Williams, bro.
Yeah.
That was
So
it. Who wasn't ready for that role. Just wasn't.
you've got a guy who's going to settle this group down when things go bad. You've got a guy who's going to coach these guys on the field. On the field. When Trapillo's, playing one of these monsters edge rushers that the Bears are going to face, especially in their own division, I'm sure they'll feel a whole lot better. If it's Trapillo, I'm sure he's going to feel a whole lot better with the guy who's won 4 Super Bowls standing to the right of him.
You know what else? Yeah, no, I agree 100%. The impact that makes. Listen, if Joe Tooney didn't play a snap of football, but would just stood on the sidelines talking to this offensive line when the defense was on the field, that the amount of improvement that makes on this offensive line is insane to me, considering what we had last year. Now he's going to play, and he's an Iron Man, and he better not start missing games once he comes to Chicago. I'm just more trying to make the point that this guy is just another coach and another leader for younger guys on this offensive line to look up to. And I think there was a big part of Joe Tooney being on this roster and the Bears drafting Luke Newman and kind of saying, hey, you're going to be in that mentorship role.
Well,
Take this kid under your wing.
And it's hard to quantify it. So I guess kind of view it like this. If you work for a job like the offensive line in the NFL, one of the most cohesive units in sports, a job where you rely on the people next to you. If you get a job, brand new job, you're nervous, you're scared, you've never done it before, and you find out the guy who's going to work alongside you is the best who ever did it, you're going to feel slightly better about what it is you got to do, man. That's just how it goes. And I think he'll provide that to not only the young players on this team, but the already existing players on this team as well. And
Foster, you guys are still on BCP. Damn.
I don't know if it was Notorious.
I was busy at work. I couldn't catch y'all tonight, man.
But I sent it in a text to you guys a couple days ago, man. Dahlman and Tooney alongside one another is just a brick wall. It is. I mean, especially in pass protection. Some of these guys had low run protection grade or run block grades. Pass protection, Dustin, you have improved this line tremendously. There's no doubt about it.
Those were two of the best. Jonah Jackson and Tooney were two of the best guards in football at pass blocking, and Dahlman was one of the best centers in football at pass blocking. And Caleb Williams needed that desperately.
And Darnell Wright was as well.
We talked about that. Yeah,
Darnell Wright was one of the better pass blocking.
And Ozzie Trapillo, his strength in college was pass block. His technique is great. His backdrop is great. I mean, his stats just in terms of pass blocks and Luke Newman, 417 snaps this past season at Michigan State without allowing a sack. These are pass blocking
once again,
offensive linemen, 100%.
Once again, the Bears, like you said, you didn't think Ryan Poles knew what a middle linebacker looked like on the Bears. You didn't know what a wide receiver looked like for the Bears. It's clear that this coaching staff defined what it is they want in somebody, and pass protection has clearly been Johnson's focus.
It is 100%
I want
the
pass
focus.
Protectors. That's what I want. We'll figure the run thing out, man. Give me some damn pass protectors. That's
because what do you always say with the offensive line, Brandon? When they're struggling, just get them moving forward. Go to the run game. Get them moving forward. Just get them putting a hat on somebody. That is the simplest thing to do in a lot of ways. Just go forward and hit the guy in front of you. You know, pass blocking can be more difficult. So if you're good at that, that's just an automatic advantage along that offensive line, because the run game, you can find more things to do in terms of pulling people, in terms of doubling up on a certain guy, and you're really just moving forward and you're making contact, you know.
And that alone does. I do believe the technique is more important when it comes to pass protection, when it comes to an offensive lineman in the NFL, and when it comes to run, you just need some big dogs, man. You just need some guys that are going to go out there and overpower the person across from, and you got a guy who's 6'8", 300 whatever, and a rookie. So I don't know that he's going to struggle too much in run blocking either. I mean, this guy is
3 years old in the face.
He's a mountain. I mean, so I feel much better about. Like I said, Dustin, if I had to project it now, I think this offensive line is ranked in the top 10 on paper. I think they're ranked in the top 10, and I also believe, and this is going to be a bold statement, but I believe you're going to cut that sack number almost in half. That's what I think you've done already to this offense.
I mean, 35 sacks. Now I'll continually say this, Brandon, and I mean it is the truth. Caleb Williams played a role in a lot of those sacks.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And
Justin Fields.
And now insert Ben Johnson, who's going to coach that shit out of him, who's going to put an offense in place that's going to make it harder for him to play out of that system. Caleb has the ability to play out of the system, which is one of his biggest strengths. But as we've talked about before, Brandon, that needs to be break glass in case of emergency. He needs to be coached on how to work within the system, take what the defense is giving him. Ben Johnson is going to do that very well for him. And the amount of pressure that's going to take off the offensive line on top of everything else that we've already talked about in terms of the talent they've added, how does it not get just way better? I don't see how it doesn't get way better. And then you talk about establishing the run and then working the play action and 12-man personnel, which are multiple things that Ben Johnson loves to do a lot of. That makes life easier on the offensive line and the quarterback as well.
Yeah, and Sean, guys, if I could find it, I would, but I don't know where Sean even found it. I don't think he uploaded it here, but Sean shared with us a statistic that's a graph that somebody put together at the end of last season about the amount of snaps in which an offensive lineman was, quote unquote, left on an island. The Bears' 2 tackles were both like top 10 on this in this statistic, left on an island. Ben Johnson's not going to do that, Dustin. He's going to make life easier on these guys for sure. The way this offense is coached, they're not going to leave Trapilo on an island. They're not going to leave Darnell Wright on an island. This unit's going to play as a whole. It's going to play as a line. That's what it's going to do, and it's going to improve just on the coaching alone. And that's something we haven't really talked about either. Is what Ben Johnson's going to do for this offensive line.
Yeah, no, that's what I was. Yeah, well, that's what I was just talking about, and that's the other part of it. And it's not just Ben Johnson. It's Rocher, right? And it's Bieniemy as the running backs coach, and there's a lot of guys that are going to work and Declan Doyle as your offensive coordinator. There's a lot of guys that are going to work in unison, and they have the film from last year. And they understand what went wrong for Caleb Williams in this offensive line. They've addressed it personnel-wise through free agency trades and the draft. And now they're going to address it scheme-wise with their installs going into these OTAs and this training camp and making sure that Caleb Williams has as much pressure taken off of him as possible. And this offensive line has life made as easy on them as possible, man. I have 100% confidence in this coaching staff to do that. And I can't wait to see it, man, because then after you have that front 5 fortified and your game plan for that, then you can start moving to your quarterback and those receivers and your running backs. And then you start looking at all the weapons that the Bears have added in this draft, Brandon. You start looking at the weapons that they already had on this roster, and you start saying, well, goddamn, there might be some fireworks going off here, man. It's hard not to get excited if you get that offensive line solidified, which we just spent 25 minutes talking about. We think that's going to happen.
Yeah, and I'm with you here, Notorious. I like this comment. I'm not worried about the O-line. He said, I'm more worried about the pass rush. I agree with you. I think that's where the Bears are weak.
Well, do you want to talk about that for a second, or do you want to transition to these weapons?
No, let's, because this is the offensive line the Bears had going into the draft minus Trapilo and Newman. I was already stating that I think this line is pretty solid on paper. I think they rank somewhere near the top of the league. I was saying I think 8 to 12. The pass rush I thought was somewhere in the mid-20s, and I don't think that improved at all.
Still feels like it's in the same place, yeah.
So I'm with you, Notorious. I think you're going to have much more trouble getting to the quarterback than keeping yours standing up this year.
Man, going into this draft, I thought safety and edge were 2 big positions of need. Probably edge more so than safety, but safety obviously because of the Byard expiring contract and Jaquan Brisker and the potential that he misses games with more concussions, man. That's just something you worry about. And the fact that they didn't really address those things it's concerning to me for sure. You hope that Dio can be that guy opposite of Montez Sweat. And the Bears have told you, really without a doubt, that they signed this guy because they think he can be. They did not draft that position in this draft because they felt like they spent assets on it in free agency, and they think that they did well enough to make it work. And then they traded back into the 5th round last year and drafted Austin Booker, who I still have high hopes for. But again, that's still an if. But I think this guy can be a stud. So I mean, there's still big question marks along the edges in terms of your pass rush. But I also think that there's going to be a very, very high focus on getting that pressure, Brandon, right up the middle in the quarterback's face. And I think the Shamar Turner pick kind of signals that, and the Grady Jarrett signing.
Yeah, I think they're going to try to bring the heat from all different ways, man. But I do agree that I just don't know that they're – man, you want that guy. So here's my thing, Dustin. Deo could be a really good player for all we know. He's still young, but I don't think you're going to get, and I'm not a Debbie Downer here, I don't think you're going to get the production from the pay that you gave the kid on the other side. I don't. My biggest concern for this pass rush is that Montez Sweat just isn't the guy the Bears think he might be. That is one of my gravest concerns, because everybody seems to, like, everybody, when you talk about the pass rush, every Bears fan was like, yeah, that guy across from Montez Sweat,
Montez wasn't
they have
doing it either.
they have
Yeah,
to find
yeah.
something. They gotta get some guys that can take some pressure off of Montez. Like, no, Montez Sweat's supposed
Liz,
to
what
be.
up?
What's going on, Liz? Montez Sweat's supposed to be that dude. He's paid $100 million, guys.
To
He's
be
supposed to be
TJ
that dude.
Watt, to
Yeah.
be Nick Bosa, to be Myles Garrett for the Chicago Bears. Yes, we've talked about this 100 times, man. And we can continue to talk about it until Montez Sweat puts his money where his mouth is. Like, it needs to happen. He needs to be generating a lot of pressure, and he needs to be getting home double-digit times this season for this
I
pass
would
rush
say
to
the
be
way he's
formidable
paid,
enough.
he is at least, guys. I'm saying at the least a 12 to 15 sack player. The way he's paid, right? At least, because I mean, these guys, the guys who are in the same pay range as him, these premier
They're
edge
hitting
rushers,
15 to
yeah,
20.
15 to, yeah. I was just going to say like 17,
Yep.
18 sacks in a season.
Yep.
So I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen it yet,
And
guys.
the reality is, Brandon, you hadn't seen it before the Bears made the trade for him and then
No,
paid him that money. That was my biggest concern when the trade happened. And I was called a hater when the trade happened, and I downed the trade. You gave up a second round pick. I've gone through this many times. I thought we gave up way too much assets to get a guy you could have gotten free agency, and then you force yourself to have to pay him because you were competing with yourself. So in terms, once you trade for the guy, he's got you over a barrel. You're gonna have
yeah,
to
you
pay
gave
him.
him leverage.
Yeah, exactly. So like I thought that was a bad move by Poles, to be honest. And all I keep doing is hoping that Montez Sweat is going to prove me wrong. Last year was not confidence instilling in regards to that, man.
No, and when I tell people my concerns with the pass rush on this football team, I think Dustin, their mindset is that, well, at least one side is good. One side's good. We've got one side taken care of. I don't. So I think that's why I have a much graver concern than most fans, and I think that's where I differ. Is I don't think either side of the line is set in stone.
Well, let me go back to what my saving grace is when I think about this, because again, I was super disappointed that an edge rusher wasn't addressed, at least a rotational one that just gets after the quarterback. Nick Scourton to me was a perfect fit for the Chicago Bears. The Panthers ended up getting him, but like a guy that you can just put in to rush the quarterback. The Bears don't really have that, like that, and hopefully that is Austin Booker. But my saving grace, Brandon, is that you added Grady Jarrett, you got Javon Dexter, and you drafted Shamar Turner, and you got a 3-man rotation of some mean motherfuckers in the center of that line that are going to push back the guards and the centers right into that quarterback's lap and make life easier on Montez Sweat and whoever it might be on the opposite side, whether it be Dio or Austin Booker or I don't know if I might be blanking on somebody else. But in terms of getting after the quarterback, I think that from the way this team is constructed, the only way I see it working is that they put that pressure straight up the middle, right in that quarterback's face. And I do think they have talent and mentality to do it. I really do.
Yeah, and I don't want to discredit either. I don't want to leave to most people's surprise. If you look it up, the PFF grades, Billings actually had one of the highest pass rush grades on this Bears team last season. He actually had a higher pass rush grade than he did a run defending grade. So
he was a huge bright spot before he got injured. And when he got injured, you saw the effect it had on this defense.
He's not going to get a bunch of sacks, but he applies pressure up the middle as well.
And it's fair for you to bring him up because I didn't mention his name because I don't really think of him as a pass rusher, Brandon. But if you talk about a rotation of those 4 guys in the center of your defense, and I do expect Javon Dexter to take another step forward this year. 5.5 sacks last year. I do expect him to get better this year, man. My birthday buddy, October 5th, Javon Dexter, is going to have an even better season this year than he did last year. And this dude is cut. And I think Dennis Allen's going to move him all around that defensive line, as we've talked about. So I think that there is some potential here that maybe we're not giving enough credit to. And obviously the Bears think that, Brandon, because they did not address the edge the way we thought it needed to be addressed. That tells me that they feel confident in what they have.
I guess
That
this
could
will
be
make my
scary,
point,
though.
Dustin. I actually have more faith in Javon Dexter taking another step forward than I do Montez Sweat.
I do too. I do too, Brandon.
I
I
do.
do too.
I think we've seen the Montez Sweat we're going to see for the $100 million we paid him.
Yeah, he might be like a max 12 sack guy. Like that might be his ceiling.
Yeah, I think Dexter can potentially be a game wrecker in this league. He needs some coaching, and I think they've got that as well. So
100%. I mean, Bill Johnson is the defensive line coach. We talked about Dan Rocher on the offensive side, but you got another super vet. This guy is old as dirt and has been doing it forever on the defensive side of the ball too. And like just the improvement from Washington to that with Dennis Allen, right? I mean, like there's more potential here. But that's kind of what we were talking about last year. So that's concerning to us as Bears fans.
Yeah, a lot of ifs.
When you start talking about the ifs and like, well, if this goes this way, then it could work out really well. That never seems to work, especially for the Bears, but it doesn't seem to work in the NFL at all. You'd rather have some really solid answers. I think the solid answers are 100% more so on the offensive side of the ball, even at that offensive line where some Bears fans still have some concerns, man. But I don't have those concerns on the offensive line. The concerns on the defensive line are definitely warranted. We got a Packers fan in here. What up? Thanks for being here. Yeah, I mean, no, listen, that's fine. It's fine. You guys had the second best draft in the NFC North this year. Good for you. Notorious on a deep edge and safety class, passing on both to take a number 2 tight end and number 3 receiver with the top 2 picks is hard to swallow. Nothing wrong with the players themselves, but they better produce or fans will chirp. I feel very confident that both Loveland and Burden, especially Burden early on, are going to produce, Notorious. But I feel what you're saying, man. Again, I was a big proponent of Makuba there at 56 or 62 because he was still available, and that guy's a starting safety in the league. I guarantee it. And I would have been very happy with that.
Yeah.
But taking Luther Burden at 39, like that's just something you can't pass up on. And this guy can house the ball every time he touches it. And I think Colston Loveland will end up being your number 1 tight end, definitely your number 1 pass catching tight end. So I mean, I think that when you hire an offensive coach, Notorious, as much as me and Brandon were talking about this weird same thing you're saying, man, with defensive end, I would have been happy with Michael Williams at number 10. The Niners took him at 11. Obviously, he's a damn good player, and I think he's going to be a good player in the league. I would have been happy with him, but when you hire an offensive head coach, obviously he's going to want to focus on offense. And as the GM, you want to build a strong relationship with that head coach and say, "Hey, man, this is what you need. Tell me this is what you need. I'm going to get it for you. Now go out and win some fucking games."
Yeah, and I don't know that. I feel the edge rusher position. I feel like the edge rusher position kind of played out the same as the running back position, Dustin, for the Bears. The guys that they visited were guys that would have potentially been first-round picks, the Shamar Stewarts and those guys. They weren't really visiting with any of these second-round, like the Landon Jacksons or any of these guys. I don't think they felt inclined.
Well, they didn't draft a lot of guys they visited either, Brandon. I don't know if that makes much of a difference.
Man, I don't know where and when. It wasn't reported, but their first 4 picks were visits.
Oh, they visited with Burden?
Yeah, they visited. Yeah, they visited with Luther Burden.
Man, he wasn't a top 30, and they didn't go to Missouri's pro day. So I don't know, whatever. Either way, man, all I'm saying is I don't know that would have made much of a difference. I think it was similar to the running backs, Brandon, in terms of the pockets that they fell into. They just never had that guy that they wanted in those spots. I'll disagree on the Makuba thing all day, though. And they had Makuba. They had a visit with Makuba, and you watch this. You all right, bud?
Me?
Yeah, you. You good?
Yeah, I'm getting a charger plugged in, man.
All right. Rocket Dream says Dexter was getting doubled. I've never seen Rocket Dream in here before. Hey, man, thanks for joining us. 4-Star Chicago Sports. I want to say that we do have a website, 4starchicagosports.com. We put all kinds of content on there, blogs, all of our shows are on there. Please check it out. Since you're here, man, please hit that like button. Hit that subscribe if you haven't already. We got content all week, talking Bears, talking Cubs, talking Bulls when they're worth talking about, I guess. So I mean, yeah, anything Chicago sports, but
So
definitely a lot of
never.
Bears centric. But it's good to see you, man. Thanks for being in here. Like, subscribe,
Thanks,
hang with
Rack.
us. Throw some comments in here. We'll talk about what you want to talk about. And Notorious says, because I was talking to Notorious kind of, I guess, basically. I get we want to say BJ had his fingerprints all over the draft, but did he not say he came to Chicago because of the talent on offense? He mentioned Moore and Komet specifically. No, yeah, of course. But that doesn't mean you don't want to build on it, man. That doesn't mean that he thinks he has everything he needs. If you look at this offense last year, you can say all the nice things you want to say about it. They weren't a good scoring offense. They weren't good at getting in the end zone. They weren't good at running the football. They weren't good at passing the ball deep down the field. Those are things you need to be successful and win football games in the NFL. And Ben Johnson knows a thing or two about that in terms of designing an offense that scores touchdowns and wins football games for you. So, I mean, I just think you got to get him what you need, what he needs. And I think that when you hire an offensive head coach, this is kind of where you put yourself. You know, when you hire.
And Kyle said it best. I think this was their approach. You get Ben Johnson, you get Caleb Williams, the tools they need to succeed, and then you get them more. That's that was their mentality, man. It's like,
For sure.
don't stop improving this offense at any point. Don't never feel like you've done enough.
But when you look at teams like the Bills this year, they just went very defense heavy in the draft, right? The Kansas City Chiefs, the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, these teams that are perennial winners, competing consistently, they do devote a lot of energy and assets to the defensive side of the ball. And so what I think what you got to find out with Chicago this year, Brandon, is do you have that high-powered enough offense to carry your team? And then this next year, this next offseason is when you really attack the defense in terms of fortifying that.
Well, and this is where Monday after the draft minutes was my initial reaction, and I'm going to stick to it. There were things about the way the Bears approached this that confused me. To me, you have in the teams that consistently compete at the end of the season, the teams that are winning Super Bowls, they do two things. They bolster their defense. They make a really good defense and a really quality run game. And the Bears definitely confused me in going in a different direction is what it felt like. They want to put together one of the most threatening pass offenses in the NFL. That's what it feels like to me. We just want too many targets for you to cover. We believe in our quarterback. He's going to be the key to all of this. It's going to depend on Caleb's arm. That's how we're going to rely on it. And I don't know, Dustin, we're going to see it on the field. I don't know that that's the approach that a Super Bowl contending team and year in and year out takes. I don't.
Yeah, but this is not a Super Bowl contending team this year. I don't believe so. I mean, obviously, based on the moves that they made, their defense is not good enough. And Erase the Hate says there will be no pass rush. I mean, that's as dreary as you can look at it. But I could see where you're coming from. And if you can't stop the run, and we are a Billings injury away from being the worst in the NFL at stopping the run. If you can't stop the run and you can't run the football, you're not going to win football games. That's for sure. One thing I will say, man, is I think Ben Johnson understands that thoroughly, and you can see that in his history. So to me, it comes down to I think the pass will be necessary, but I do not think that the Bears are just set to win on Caleb's arm. They are going to establish the run. They're going to have to. And if Ben Johnson doesn't understand that, then I will be very, very confused, Brandon. Very confused. Elizabeth asked.
Go ahead.
Elizabeth asked, "Do we think that the Bears got the tools they needed?" I've heard mixed reviews. They got the tools to help Caleb Williams 100%. Do they have the tools that they need to win 10, 11 games and compete in this to win this division and be in the playoffs? I don't know. Because defensively, as we're talking about, there are some things that were neglected. But this is phase one, guys. I mean, there's going to be multiple phases, regardless of the fact that Poles has been here. You just hired a new head coach, and he is really helping to establish the identity and vision for this team. And this is phase one of that. I think you find out if you have the offense and you have the quarterback, and then you start building and adding to the defense. It seems like that's the approach the Bears are taking. I don't know. What do you think, Brandon?
Dustin, I'm very. I don't know. I'm skeptical over whether or not they've done enough to develop a good, efficient, top of the league running game in the NFL. I am. DeAndre Swift is a piece that works best with another piece. He's not a 3-down back. The interior offensive line improved, but that's not where your running back most succeeds between the tackles. So I don't know that I love the way this Bears run game looks right now.
I think a lot of that is going to be scheme, man. And I think DeAndre Swift was the biggest winner of this Bears draft on this Bears offense.
For sure, because they
he
didn't
is
replace
going
him.
he is going to be primarily featured. He's not an in between the tackles power runner. We know that, but we also know, Brandon, without a doubt, that this guy was not used properly last year in that offense. I said it every single game. The way they were utilizing him was incorrect, and they couldn't run block, and so I mean, and they had no balance, no game flow to their play calling. It just never made any sense. But you saw when it worked, DeAndre Swift took that thing to the house, and he can do that again this year. I 100% know that Ben Johnson will be designing a very strong zone run game for this Bears offense, and you could see Roschon Johnson getting involved in that a lot. You could see DeAndre Swift, Manungai now. I mean, people want to bring up Wheeler. I think there's a solid set of running backs in here. You don't have your 3-down back, but I still think they're going to find a way to get it done, man. Like I said, I think Ben Johnson knows you have to. This offense will start with the run, Brennan. Ben Johnson does play action more than anybody. You can't do that if you don't establish a run. DeAndre Swift is going to have a good season.
I think he's clearly shown in his history that it's important. I mean, he relies heavily on the run. I just don't know that they have the pieces, Dustin. I'm concerned about it.
They certainly have it on the listen. I think they've improved the offensive line to do it. I think DeAndre Swift is better than people are thinking of him right now because they got a bad taste in their mouth from last season. But again, the coaching was awful. The play calling was awful. You had multiple offensive coordinators. The offensive line was an interchangeable shit show. There was so many things going on that hurt a running back. There was no consistency to be found. I think that consistency is going to be found early on. And I think that, again, I'll just keep saying it, establishing the run will be the key. Ben Johnson knows this. He's not dumb. This will happen for the Chicago Bears. They are not going to drop Caleb Williams back 45 times a game and say, let's win us the game on your own.
That's
my what's going to happen.
My fear is that he's going to average 30 to 35 passes a game. I don't want that to be this offense, man. I want balance. I want this offense to establish the pass by running the ball first. And I don't know that that's the way they went in this draft.
Notorious says, that reminds me, KC took Omar Norman Lott, the pick after we took Shamar, and he was a top 30 visit. We talked about that on Monday too, Notorious. And honestly, right after the Bears took Turner, you got Omar Norman Lott, and then a couple picks later, you had Darius Alexander go to the Giants, who I thought was a better 3-technique defensive tackle than Shamar Turner. To be honest, I just felt that way. Some people would have preferred Omar Norman Lott. I prefer Darius Alexander in that spot. We got Shamar Turner, and we do think that it's because of his versatility and his attitude. And this guy can just be a good rotational piece on this defensive line. He's a guy that Dennis Allen identified as the guy he wanted. That's the way I'm thinking about it. I think the Shamar Turner was a good pick, but yeah, I would have wanted Darius Alexander over him. I would have wanted Andrew Makuba over him in that spot. I would have.
It leads me to believe, Dustin, because you did have Alexander still on the board, it leads me to believe this guy will play edge. He will not. I'm not talking about officially full-time. I'm talking about, like, I think this guy is going to move inside and out. He did it a lot in college. He played a lot on the perimeter. I think that Dennis Allen liked Shamar Turner because he's a guy who's interchangeable at every position on this line, left, right, inside, outside. I think this kid's going to play some edge for sure.
Well, Brandon, we've been talking defense a while. We did advertise this as an offensive show. How much has the offense improved? I had a beautiful transition earlier, but we went into the edge rusher thing. Now, we talked about this offensive line. That's obviously what you have to establish if you want to establish your offensive run game and then your pass game and how you get the ball to those weapons, right? The Bears went out in this draft and their first 2 picks were weapons. Colston Loveland is a versatile move all around the alignment weapon. Luther Burden, same thing. You already had Rome. Just drafted him in the top 10 last year. You got Caleb, right? Just drafted him number 1 overall last year. You already had DJ, traded for him. Gave him a big contract. You got DeAndre Swift. You got Roschon Johnson. You added Manungai in the 7th round. the Bears have added a lot of weapons to this offense. And as much as you might have wanted them to impact the defense, Ben Johnson got all the toys he needs to play with. How improved is this offense from last year, man? Just on paper right now, obviously we got to see it on the field. Thanks to Jamerson for showing up. This draft played out perfectly. He says the 7th round running back we have is a beast. Man, I kind of tend to agree with you. I love this draft. My draft grades are on 4starchicagosports.com. Go check those out if y'all got a sec on the blog there. But Brandon, how improved is this offense from last year to you? What are your expectations versus, what we saw last year?
Vastly, and I think it starts with what you said, Dustin. I mean, the offensive line. To me, guys, we can hammer home depth all we want, but this offensive line is greatly improved. I think they're going to hold up being one of the best top 10 unit in this league.
And top 15 at the very least, Brandon. Top 15 at the very least.
And that's where it starts. And you need Caleb to be upright. If Caleb's going to be throwing the ball to these weapons that you're putting on the field, he's got to have the time to do it. So I think alone that improving the offensive line as much as it did is going to make this a well-oiled machine. But the weapons is I mean, if I'm Caleb Williams, I'm licking my chops right now. I can't wait for the season to start. It is improved at pretty much every position, even ones where you didn't have to. I think that Luther Burden isn't guys. I love Keenan Allen. He's done a lot in his career. He's probably on the fringe of Hall of Fame when the ballots come around, but
clear improvement.
Luther Burden is a better today is a better player.
Right now, he's a better player.
Yes. And Colston Loveland to me is a better player than Cole Kmet, but you didn't lose Cole Kmet. So you just added talent. You didn't replace it. And we already know what DJ Moore is capable. I think Ben Johnson will do a lot better job at utilizing DJ Moore as well as these last two offensive coordinators did. And like you said, Dustin, DeAndre Swift was abused. I mean, literally. I mean, I was excited the day they signed DeAndre Swift. Mm-hmm. I remember being like, man, we just not only did he have 1,000 yards rushing in his last season with Philadelphia, but you got one of the biggest big play.
I got a good analogy. I'm sorry, but what they did with DeAndre Swift last year is like you buying a screwdriver and then trying to use it as a fucking hammer. That's what the Bears did with DeAndre Swift last year. Sorry, go ahead. They bought a screwdriver and they used it as a hammer.
Yeah. No, and Ben Johnson just
shame on them.
Ben Johnson just knowing what each player's strength is already going to make this offense better than it was, and it's going to make sense for Caleb Williams. You know what I mean? Caleb, because a lot of what this, like especially Rome Odunze, doesn't. Rome Odunze benefited on this offense last year from when things broke down, when things fell apart. That's where Caleb seemed to target Rome the most. Rome Odunze is a guy that you scheme open. Rome Odunze is a guy that you make, and you make a point to get this kid the ball. That's why you draft him 9th overall. He has the potential to be one of the best receivers in the NFL. You scheme for this kid to get the ball. You scheme to get the ball in this kid's hands in space. And it felt like it only came at the result of necessity when Rome Odunze was involved last year. So Brandon, I think, go ahead.
You've talked about a couple of things that I want to touch on. And Notorious, and real quick, just a comment. Amphiorus, love the offense. Never in all my years have the Bears had so much athleticism on offense. That athleticism is key. Versatility, athleticism. They got studs out there. And Notorious says, even with that down year being used completely wrong for the majority of the season, Swift still had 1,300 plus all-purpose yards, right? Those are all big things. But you touched on some stuff that I want to talk about, and I kind of want to get bigger picture before we get into each individual weapon. Everybody keeps saying that, Luther Burden is Ben Johnson's Amon-Ra St. Brown in Chicago. First of all, I don't know if Ben Johnson is looking for an Amon-Ra St. Brown. Every player is different. Ben Johnson is trying to get the best players possible on this team. This offense has very different players than what the Lions had. If you're going to talk about an Amon-Ra St. Brown, though, the Bears already had it in DJ Moore. You talked about how Ben Johnson would utilize him more, get him involved in this offense in a better way. DJ Moore can dominate in the slot the way Amon-Ra St. Brown does. DJ Moore can be used in end arounds and can be used in misdirection plays to catch the defense off guard. And Ben Johnson will find ways to use him better. You are 100% correct. But my bigger point with this Ben Johnson offense in Chicago that I just everybody keeps wanting to put it in a box, and I'll even say it. Like he runs more play action than anybody else. He runs out of 2 tight end sets more than anybody else. But who's to say that he's going to continue to do those things here with different personnel? You don't have a Jamison Williams on this team. And maybe Luther Burden is your Jamison Williams if you want to do that. But you got different players here with different skill sets. I don't know that he wants Loveland to be his Laporta. Maybe Loveland can be better. Maybe Loveland will serve a different role. I can't wait to see what they do because, as Amphiorus points out, the athleticism on this team, the versatility on this offense, the different things that you can do. I don't want to just put it in a box and say this is what it's going to be, because I think Ben Johnson is going to move these guys all around.
Well,
and I think a lot of different people are going to get involved in different ways, and it's going to look different than what he did in Detroit. I think by a lot.
And what I said to you over the phone today, and I want to say this, the Bears fans have kind of hung, since the Colston Loveland pick, I've heard a lot of Ben Johnson runs the 12-man. It's this thing. He likes the 12-man, the 2 tight end sets. Guys, 12-man personnel means 2 tight ends are on the field and 2 wide receivers are on the field. I don't know with Rome Odunze, Luther Burden, and DJ Moore that Ben Johnson's intention of running a 12-man personnel is coming. I think it's coming down.
A huge point, Brandon, to make when what you're saying is that the Lions never had a solid third receiver.
No, they didn't.
It was Tim Patrick last year.
Yeah.
There was nobody to the level of Luther Burden in that third receiver role for the Detroit Lions. They never had it. So you can't say that Ben Johnson, you know what I'm saying? Like Ben Johnson didn't have that tool to utilize in his tool belt in Detroit like he does here.
And I think now that Ben Johnson does, he would love to run more 11-man person. I think he'd love those 3 wide receivers on the field at the same time, and he'd love to take a tight end. I think his usage of 2 tight end sets is going to come down dramatically on this Bears team. I do. I that's something that everybody, like you said, put in a box, man. I've heard a lot about Ben Johnson's his love for the 12-man personnel. I think that
Emerson right here saying it, and listen, it's a juggernaut offense, he says. People sometimes don't grasp the fact that Komet and Loveland are a perfect combo. BJ runs 12 personnel a lot, right? And that's the thing that we go back, and I just want to say that if we think Ben Johnson is just here in Chicago trying to just mimic everything he did in Detroit, then I don't think we think very highly of Ben Johnson.
I think you're gonna fail.
Yeah, for sure, because you have different players. You were playing indoor in Detroit versus outside here in Chicago. It's just going to be different in a lot of ways. So I can't wait to see what he does. The one thing that I know for sure with these weapons, versatility out the ass, athleticism out the ass, and you have all kinds of options if you're Ben Johnson in terms of how you want to attack a defense.
And the one thing that should absolutely define what this offense becomes and why it's going to be drastically different from what he did in Detroit is you have so much more options with the quarterback that he's inherited here in Chicago. I am not saying Jared Goff earned he got his money, he got paid, he played within the system Ben Johnson had him in, he played.
But he can't hold Caleb Williams Jock athletically in terms of throwing the football. No,
you have to build this offense around a quarterback who can do a lot more than Jared Goff. So this offense should not only look different, it should look better.
I love this too. I was going to say this too. Loveland could be on the field with Komet and they won't be in 12 personnel, Brandon.
Yeah, I agree.
He will be, and Notorious is pointing that out right here. He will be put into the slot often with Cole Kmet staying in line. I mean, there's just so many. That was the Bears' goal, clearly. When you say, like, why do they need to add more weapons to the weapons they already had? It was so they could be so fucking multiple that no one has any idea what they're going to do week to week. Ben Johnson is going to be in the lab every damn night getting Declan Doyle taking his notes, just coming up with awesome fucking game plans and some crazy trick plays too, and just it's going to be different. It's going to be some big variations from what you saw in Detroit, because honestly right now, if you're looking at it on paper, this Bears offense has way more weapons than that line.
Yeah, and let's talk about that, Dustin, because you the question we put on the thumbnail, the question you started this conversation with is how improved is the Bears offense? Guys, The Bears offense pretty much finished dead last in every statistical category last season. I think right now you hired the best play caller in the NFL. You drafted the best quarterback available in the draft as far as I'm concerned still. I know guys, Jaden balled out, but I think this offense goes from the dead last in the NFL, which they were, and it was bad. I mean, I don't know that the Bears. I don't know the Bears scored a touchdown in the first quarter of any game last year. Which I mean, that's got to be
I feel like they
ridiculous.
ended up. I don't want to even think about that right now. I
But
feel like they ended up doing it at some point, but
but I think this offense has the potential to be a top 10 unit, which I've said
that's
again and again and
how
again on this show, guys. That's
that's
how
how
improved I think they
that's
are.
how improved Brandon thinks this offense is. And listen, you start to feel like you're drinking the Kool-Aid. Like you're just being a biased Bears fan when you say that. But if you look at this shit on paper and you look at Ben Johnson's history of being a play caller in the NFL, it's very easy to see that, Brandon. And Jamerson, well, I'm not saying that it's mimicking Detroit just because you want to use two tight ends. All I'm saying is that he might use those two tight ends in a different way. And there's gonna and the fact that he has those options, he didn't have those options in Detroit. He didn't, not in my mind, because he didn't have the type of players. He didn't have the level of athleticism. His second tight end was Brock Wright in Detroit. So yeah, he's better off now, 100%, and he still will use 12 personnel, and I believe that. I'm just saying, like, I don't know that it's going to be as cookie cutter. Like this was how we did it in Detroit, so this is how we're doing it in Chicago. And I don't think Ben Johnson wants to do that, Brandon. I think he has something to prove, to be honest.
Well, and like you said, this you have to like guys. The thing we've hated most about all coaches in Chicago, not just related to the Bear regarding the Bears, but they don't
Yeah, it was.
they don't scheme around the players they have, right? They
They've
try to
always
make
tried to fit
they
the
try to
square
make
peg
players
in the round
fit.
hole.
Try to
Yeah.
make players fit what they're doing instead of developing something around the
Ketsy,
players they have.
Waldron, yeah,
This is the
Nagy,
beauty.
they all
This
did
is
this
the
shit.
beauty of what occurred with this draft, guys. Is Ben Johnson doesn't have to do anything he did in Detroit because he's got a plethora of. He now has two, what I believe to be two of the better tight ends in the NFL. What I believe to be is probably going to be the most impactful rookie receiver. But yeah, I'm going to say that the most impactful rookie receiver and one of the best slot receivers, probably potentially in the future. And he's got three quality wide receivers he didn't have in Detroit. He's got two quality tight ends he didn't have in Detroit, and he's got a quarterback that can open a lot more. Right? I mean, you can open this offense to so much more with Caleb Williams than you could with the Jared Goff. Guys is a good player, but he's the same guy. He takes the ball under center. He stays in the pocket. He gets rid of the ball quickly. That is not the offense. This is not Caleb Williams' strengths. Look at the strengths of these two players. These are not the same thing. Very, very different players, and Caleb
So
is
that
capable of
what
much
you're
more.
what you're talking about just made me think of something, and I want to ask you this question. And I'm curious what the chat has to say as well, man. You're talking about square peg, round hole. And Jared Goff under center. That's the offense he played in at Cal, right? That's the offense that he was used to, and even with Sean McVay to an extent. And that's what Ben Johnson utilized, and that meant a lot of 12-man personnel, and that meant a lot of play action. Caleb Williams, the biggest talking point for Caleb Williams in a lot of circles so far leading into this season is he's never played under center. He has always played in shotgun. So is Ben Johnson doing what you were just talking about, square peg, round hole, trying to make Caleb fit into his offense? Or does he start to adjust to Caleb and say, okay, well, I never ran this much shotgun, but this is what you're good at, and this is where you're comfortable. So let me start to adjust here. Or do you see Caleb doing most of the adjusting and Ben and I think Caleb's capable of it 100%. He's a savvy dude, smart dude, competitor. He's gonna figure it out. He's gonna study his ass off. But do you end up hurting Caleb Williams potentially by forcing him to be an under center quarterback
I
when he has been a shotgun quarterback his whole damn life?
I think the two have to meet in the middle in order for this offense to be
I
capable of
agree with Jameson.
in order for this offense to be capable of everything. They have to meet in the middle. I mean, Caleb's going to have to play a little more under center for sure, but you also going to have to move this pocket, Dustin. The best way to do that is keeping Caleb in shotgun. I mean, Ben is going to have to change his ways a little bit. There's no doubt about it. And Caleb Williams is going to have to learn a whole lot, which, like you just said, and I agree with you. I think he's 100% capable of. But I don't want to take Caleb's greatest strengths away from him either. You just said the guy's played his entire career one way. So if Ben Johnson says, "Hey, this guy's pretty comfy. He's pretty good when he's doing this," I hope to hell, man,
He's
that
gonna
he
end up
utilizes
start,
it.
yeah, right. He's
Yeah.
gonna end up having to install more shotgun into his offense. So that just in and of itself changes this Bears offense. I do believe he wants to get Caleb under center. But like you said, there's got to be a healthy combination of both because you have to also consider what your generational number one overall quarterback is most comfortable doing if you're a coach. And that's what we've been screaming for years when it was Nagy trying to force Fields to be something he wasn't and Getty trying to force Fields to be something he wasn't. You know what I'm saying? Like in Waldron last year, just not giving Caleb what he needed. So we've seen that a lot. So it's just a thought I had when you were talking about it, man. And regardless of that, shotgun, under center, I think the biggest thing for Caleb Williams this year and Ben Johnson's biggest focus is going to be get Caleb Williams to play in structure and get rid of the fucking ball quickly. That will be the biggest key to Caleb Williams and this Bears offense success. You got playmakers at every spot outside. Get rid of the ball as quick as you can and let them get you the yards after the catch. That is going to be the biggest focus for Caleb Williams to have success.
And that's one of the most exciting things as a Bears fan that this presents to me, man, is you have one of the best guys at manufacturing and engineering a structured offense that is lethal, that keeps defenses on their heels, that just continues to press and attack, while also having, to me, and I'm trying to be unbiased here because I've loved this kid since his Oklahoma days. I mean, you have one of the best players in the league when things break down, right? I mean,
So when that happens, he is going to be awesome, but that should happen as little as possible.
Yes.
Play within the structure, but you have that to fall back on.
Yes, Ben Johnson must be ecstatic knowing if shit doesn't go the way I need it to each and every play, I trust the guy who's out there to improvise.
It's a tightrope.
I don't want that to be the case, but I trust my quarterback to do so.
100%.
That's what I want.
And that's a tightrope of coaching, Brandon, that Ben Johnson is going to have to walk this year that he has never had to walk at any other place he's coached in his career, between coaching this guy to play within structure. Jared Goff, that was fucking super easy. I guarantee it. He wants structure. Ben Johnson is going to have to coach Caleb to embrace structure, but at the same time, not coach out of him his improvisation, not coach out of him his willingness to make a play out of structure. There's going to be a tightrope that Ben Johnson has never walked before in terms of that type of coaching, Brandon.
Well, and the one good thing, man, that Shane Waldron did provide and that Thomas Brown did provide Caleb Williams is Ben Johnson trusted Jared Goff a lot at changing plays at the line, at kind of being the commander in chief on the field pre-snap. Caleb's done a lot of this already.
Yeah, the Bears let him do that early and often, and probably to his detriment, probably to their detriment, giving it too much at some points, Brandon. But yeah, Caleb is not afraid of it, for sure. And so, I mean, it's going to be interesting. It's not going to just be like just add water and all of a sudden you got this shit down. We do have these weapons, and we're going to start talking about them a little bit more in terms of where we see them performing fantasy-wise, you know, the fantasy rankings for these Bears weapons. But this is going to take some time. Ben Johnson has got a completely different quarterback that he's coaching. Caleb Williams got a completely different coach that's going to want to have discipline and structure within the offense. And you still got to make sure that you give Caleb room to breathe and be himself. You know, so there's going to be a lot of moving parts in regards to this offense and them getting settled in together and finding what Ben Johnson's comfortable and Caleb Williams comfortable. Those things might be here and here. You got to get here, and that might take half the damn season at the least to find that, Brandon.
Yeah, what I love about this most, Dustin, is over the offseason when the Bears were in during their coaching search, they asked Caleb Williams, like, what kind of coach do you want, man? What kind of coach you dream of? And he said, if I'm just being selfish, I want a really innovative play caller on offense. And he might as well have just said the damn name out of his own mouth. This is the guy Caleb Williams wants. This is the quarterback Ben Johnson wants, I believe.
What was the other thing that he said, though, Brandon? Accountability. Caleb wants to be held accountable.
Yeah.
Caleb does not want to just be let to do whatever he wants. Like, he knows he needs to get better, and he's a guy who wants to be held accountable. And I think Ben Johnson's going to do that too. So I think this will be a match made in heaven, but there will be some rocky parts in terms of Ben Johnson and Caleb getting used to each other and practicing on the football field, man. It's just going to be impossible to avoid.
And real quick, Dustin, I just want to say this, man. This team fired their head coach in the middle of last season. They moved on from a quarterback they selected in the first round before he even got to his fifth-year option. By all measures, this should be a place that players just want to stay the hell away from, based on the history of how this organization handles itself. Caleb Williams is going to be the best thing that ever happened to the Chicago Bears organization, because Ben Johnson wanted this job.
Because of Caleb.
Wanted Caleb Williams.
Caleb changes everything. Caleb changes everything, bro.
Every player, Luther Burden, was asked questions about what quarterback he wants to throw him. This guy has enticed talent and coaching to this organization.
The coaching brought the talent, the coaching that wanted to work with Caleb. Yes, 100%. And those awesome. All work off of each other, man. And that's a great transition to our top fantasy Bears this year, who we think, right? Because I think number one on both of our lists is the same. It's the guy we're talking about right now. I'll just come out and say it. Caleb Williams is the number one fantasy option for the Chicago Bears this year. I think he's in for a hell of a season, and I think he's going to tell Jaden Daniels to hold his beer. That's what I think.
And I do think, guys, I don't know how you draft your fantasy teams. I don't know where your guys' quarterbacks start to fall in your drafts. Caleb Williams should be one of, in regards to fantasy especially, should, in this Ben Johnson offense, should be one of the first quarterbacks selected in your fantasy drafts.
I mean, what if you can get Caleb in the 5th round and you can knock out a couple of running backs?
And like our league, that's where you're going to be. Quarterbacks are going to be falling, and that's where the dominoes will fall.
Or 6th or 7th round, even. You could wait a little bit and still get a top 5 fantasy quarterback in Caleb Williams. I get worried when the value's too high. If I see Caleb Williams going in the 1st round, I'm not in on that. If second round, do that. I'm probably not in on that.
We don't do quarterbacks in the first 2 rounds.
But I think in terms of what you can expect, and again, projecting it out this early is tough. But Caleb Williams, with all the weapons that they've added around him, with the new offensive line, with a new offensive coordinator and head coach that's going to make the game easier on him, I don't see how he doesn't grow by leaps and bounds.
And Ben Johnson said he 100% intends on utilizing designed runs too. So don't think that Caleb's rushing yards are just going to disappear because he's got a Ben Johnson running the show now. This guy's still going to get.
And that's another part. Yards. That's another part of this offense that will be completely different than it was in Detroit, Brendan. You couldn't do that in Detroit. You have the ability.
Unless you want to kill your quarterback.
The theme of this offseason for the Chicago Bears, the 2 themes to me are competition, versatility. They wanted guys that could do everything, and they want guys to compete for their jobs. And obviously, Caleb's not competing for his job, but Caleb has versatility at the quarterback position that Ben Johnson didn't have in Jared Goff. So that's another key to unlock another part of of this offense that will be different than what we've seen from Ben Johnson in the past, man. And that'll help Caleb.
I don't have any way to prove this, Dustin, but to me, a versatility that is almost required to win Super Bowls. These are the kind of quarterbacks, Dustin, the Patrick Mahomes, the Jalen Hurts, like the Lamar. These are the kind of guys to me that are going to be the most successful in the NFL today. These guys that provide that option.
Successful in terms of fantasy, for sure. I mean, in terms of Super Bowls, I mean, you got Patrick Mahomes lighting it up. Josh Allen is going to hopefully get there eventually. He's a dual threat quarterback. Jalen Hurts just last year won the Super Bowl, has been the 2. I mean, like, these guys.
Lamar Jackson gets close every year. I mean,
Lamar Jackson will get there eventually too. Yeah, but in terms of straight fantasy, as we're talking, these are guys that are going to get you points, and I think Caleb Williams is going to. Jaden Daniels. Obviously,
fantasy monster. I drafted him last year.
I did as well, and I won every league I played. I think, didn't I? 2 out of 3. I don't remember. It was a lot, but I think Caleb Williams is the number 1 fantasy option for the Chicago Bears this year. We are in agreement. I think number 2 is where we veer off a little bit. Who's your number 2 guy, Brandon? to
I
target
just got to
fantasy.
go strictly usage here, man. I'm going DeAndre Swift.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that makes sense. That makes sense. I mean, and as Notorious pointed out earlier, 1,300 all-purpose yards. I was very high on DeAndre Swift last year going into fantasy, and I always have that. It's always tough. Like I thought I was going to get like running back 2 production out of him, and I guess I kind of did, but it felt like running back 3 to running back 5 sometimes week to week. It was very inconsistent. That consistency will come this year, I think, in this Ben Johnson offense more than it did last year. But I'm still waiting to see how this usage plays out at that running back spot. I think DeAndre Swift, like I said, was a big beneficiary, but I would have Rome at number 2. I got Rome at number 2, Brandon. I think Rome Odunze is in for a huge season. We can talk about Swift a little more if you got more to say, but my number 2 is Rome.
No, I put Swift there just because I value running backs over wide receivers. The Bears players are always a little questionable when you're maybe talking about fantasy, man. The guy that you can just guarantee yourself is going to get. Each receiver could have his day every Sunday. The guy who's going to get the ball in the backfield is DeAndre Swift.
I don't think there's a connection on this offense stronger than Caleb and Rome. And if I can stack Caleb Williams in fantasy with Rome Odunze, I'm going to do that shit all day. I think Rome is set to have a breakout season. He's going to light the league up this year in this offense with Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams and all the weapons around him. You can argue it both ways. You can say that, well, because they added all these weapons, it's going to take away target share from Rome Odunze. And that's a fair argument to make. But also, Rome Odunze was taken in the top 10 for a reason. This guy is a stud receiver, and it's in the making. It's still happening. I think this is a breakout season for him, and I think Ben Johnson moves him all around this offense and finds ways to get him involved. Yeah, and Caleb is going to want that.
Rome Odunze is my number 3, and I'm praying, Dustin, praying that Ben Johnson already has a section of a playbook that just says Rome. I pray, man, because this is a kid that you have got to make a point to get the ball. It's 100%. It's not 1 read, 2 read, 3 read. No, I want to play where it's Rome is number 1. That's you make a point for Rome to get the ball. You disguise something, you get him into space. Rome Odunze needs to get the ball as much as humanly possible this upcoming season, man.
Yeah, because that's good for your team. He can make things happen after the catch. He can break tackles. He can make contested catches. He's going to score touchdowns.
Man, but this guy should be in the conversations with these Justin Jeffersons and you know what I mean, like AJ Browns and Malik Neighbors. Rome Odunze should be in those talks. We should be having those conversations about Rome Odunze.
There's certain guys the Bears have drafted over the years, and you just don't see it, man. Like whether that be David Terrell, whether that be Kevin White, Alshon Jeffrey, you saw it. Like you saw it pretty early on. I mean, Rome Odunze, you just saw it in the way he moves, in the way he gets open. There were so many times he was open last year where he just wasn't getting the ball. He didn't really get frustrated. I'm sure he was, but he didn't show it. He didn't let it impact his play. He still goes out there and tries to block. He might not be the greatest at it, but he's going to get better at it this year, I promise. This guy is going to do everything he can to get involved in this offense this year. And I really think Ben Johnson, like you said, is going to make a point to get him involved because that's going to make winning football happen for the Chicago Bears.
And I'm going to say this.
He's going to prove it, Christian.
I love Caleb Williams, but when Rome was in tight coverage, Caleb was a little timid, guys, in his rookie season to put the ball anywhere near a defender. When he threw some deep passes, it was 10, 15 yards off the point. Rome Odunze is a guy that if you get the ball near him in his catch radius, he has proven time and time again, he's going to get the ball. He was one of the best contested catchers in the NCAA his entire collegiate career. Give this guy a shot.
He can make a play.
Not only do you want to give this guy the ball in space, but if he's downfield and you got him in man, throw the ball to this kid, man. Yep. We saw his very first game as a rookie. We at least saw that he's going to get up there and knock the ball down. You know what I mean? Remember when that ball got tipped and he got to the highest point over everybody else and pulled it down? Like, he's going to do something smart. Rome Odunze is a smart football player. I want to see Rome Odunze get chances, man.
Yeah, and I mean, he had plays last year where he wasn't in the right place. He was a rookie, you know, out of bounds in the end zone when Caleb made that play to get him. Like there's certain things that he's going to get better at. And I see Rome having a 1,200-yard season, man, catching the fucking ball. I just see him being better than so many other people on the field that it's going to be impossible for him to not beat them over and over again. And 1,200 yards and eight or nine touchdowns is totally realistic in my mind for Rome. Call me crazy. This guy is a fucking stud. And my number 3 is DeAndre Swift, Brandon. So we're pretty much right there, interchangeable in those between those two guys. But I would much rather stack Williams and Rome together. But I think Swift has the potential in this offense to have 500 yards receiving and 800 yards rushing and get in the end zone eight times this season, 8 to 10 times. So yeah, he can end up being a very valuable fantasy asset if he stays healthy.
Who's your number 4, Dustin?
My number 4 is DJ Moore. My number 4 is DJ Moore, and honestly, he should probably be higher. I have such high hopes for Rome Odunze, man. And again, it's not just based on the fact that he was drafted by the Bears last year. It's based on the fact that what I saw him do on the field, if Caleb Williams is playing within structure and hitting it where he needs to hit it, Rome is going to get a lot more opportunities to catch the ball. But DJ Moore is going to get very involved in this offense as well, man. And I think, again, if you're looking for your Amon-Ra St. Brown, you already had him on this team when Ben Johnson got hired. It's DJ Moore. DJ Moore can get involved in every asset of this game, and you understand that he's a competitor and he comes to play. So he should be the 4th option. He should probably be higher though, but he's my 4th.
Yeah, might as well. And I think DJ Moore's going to get a few carries out of the backfield week in and week out. I think Ben Johnson's going to get the ball into his hands on any way he can, not necessarily downfield. I think he's just going to try to get the bubble screens, the things like that. He's going to get the ball to DJ Moore with blockers in front of him. Dustin, I don't sway any way from how I feel about what we just said about Rome Odunze. Rome Odunze is a better wide receiver, if you ask me, than DJ Moore is. We haven't seen it yet. So I'm making bold claims here, but I believe that he is. I believe
just in terms of how he moves, his capabilities, his traits, Brandon.
Separation, the contested catch.
Yes.
I think that he's better. But I do think DJ Moore is a guy that you just get the ball in his hands and he'll find a guy. I don't know what it is. This guy needs to teach a damn course on like yards after catch or just how to see the field.
Oh, he's going to have a lot of people to teach it to this season, Brandon.
once the ball is in your hands, I don't know if there's anyone better in the NFL. This guy just finds the lanes. He makes good angles that defenders can't make. Like he just finds a way to collect yards after he
pushes through people once they start trying to tackle him too, man.
Yeah.
He's a stud with the ball in his hands. Again, yak. That's what this team is all about this season in my mind. And I've never seen this name before, Roschon Johnson. What's up, brother? Thanks for being in here. Says Rome has to prove it first. And he says, I agree with you, but Caleb has to learn to trust Rome and DJ. 100%. He has to put that ball out there and say, Rome, make a play. And I think if he starts doing that more, you build his confidence in Rome and you build Rome's confidence in himself. And those two things are huge.
And there's a reason, Roschon, that Caleb only had 6 interceptions last season. Because he wasn't doing that, what you just said. He wasn't willing to give those guys chances. He didn't want to turn the ball over. I understand the way Caleb approached it, but you've got these guys for a reason. You've got DJ Moore. You have these playmakers, especially Colston Loveland.
Caleb was being coached.
I'm giving that guy. If I see Colston Loveland and man downfield, you better believe I'm throwing the damn ball, dude.
Caleb was being coached to not make mistakes, Brandon, and you got to let him. You got to let him let it rip, and I think that's going to happen this year. I mean, maybe not right away.
Will probably increase, but it comes with it's the risk.
But so will the touchdowns. So will the touchdowns. Who's your number 5 guy?
The 20+ yard plays.
Which are the plays that win games in the NFL? What do you got? Number 5.
Man, this one
was 5. It's 5A, 5B, right?
Yeah, I was so torn here, man. But I'm going to say this just because I believe he provides the best over-the-top threat on this Bears offense today. I got to go Luther Burden, man. I think big downfield plays when you're talking 50, 60-yard touchdowns, which I believe the Bears will do this year. I think they have a big play potential with Ben Johnson calling the plays. Luther Burden's the guy I want downfield. He's the guy who gets over the top of this defense the top of the defense. That's my number 5.
Brandon, I love Luther Burden. You know how much I love Luther Burden. I was projecting him to go to the Bears at 39, trying to will that shit into existence, and it happened. It was one of my
Hey,
favorite
did you
picks of
prank
this.
call him? Hey,
It was
Luther,
what's up, bro? What you need?
this is
Luther
this is Ben Johnson. You ready to
Bur-
be a bear?
Yeah, this is Luther. You got the best. Luther Burden's a gangster, dude. But I don't have him at number five, man. I think for me it's like 5A, 5B. It's Loveland. It's Loveland for me, man. And Komet is like right there neck and neck because Komet has that ability to just catch everything that's thrown his way if he gets the opportunities. But Loveland is such a better athlete. Loveland is such a better seam stretcher. Loveland is such a better red zone target based on what I'm seeing when I'm watching this guy's film, man. That and the fact that Ben Johnson had to go get him at 10 over Tyler Warren, over a lot of other good options, tells me that Ben Johnson cannot wait to take this new toy out the box, man. And Loveland is kind of gonna go off. I mean, going off for a rookie tight end varies. I don't think we're gonna see what we saw with Brock Bowers last year. There's too many damn weapons on this team, first of all, compared to that Raiders team last year. But
Yeah, you
Loveland is,
almost hope you don't. You know what I mean?
yeah. But Loveland should be the fifth option, I think, in this offense based on what Ben Johnson wants out of him and the way he's going to design the offense around him and just his versatility to go anywhere on the field and be an impact player for you, whether it be blocking, catching, whatever he needs to do, getting downfield and blocking on screens. This guy can do everything, man. He will be the number one red zone threat for the Chicago Bears brand.
When I could see him getting that 5 catches, 58 yards, and a touchdown consistently. In regards to fantasy, if Luther Burden gets one 58-yard touchdown, he's got like 17 points.
But I think Luther Burden is going to be a slow burn, man, and I think that'll be inconsistent. You might see him do that once every 3 weeks, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, Luther Burden's a bust. I'm saying it now. No. I love Luther Burden
on this offense.
I think Luther Burden takes off more so in year 2 than year 1. I think this is Rome's year, bro. And I just think Burden is going to have to find his way in this offense, and it's going to be hard. And he's going to push hard, and he's going to make some plays that are going to make your fucking eyes pop out of your head this year for the Chicago Bears. Plays we haven't seen made for the Chicago Bears in some time, maybe since Brandon Marshall was catching the ball for this team. You're going to see a lot of fun shit, but I just think it's going to be too inconsistent. I think Loveland you could see as a tight end stacking up 600-700 yards. And as I said, and I firmly believe this, he will be Caleb Williams' favorite target in the red zone. So what do you think that means? 6 to 8 touchdowns for a rookie tight end? That's pretty damn good.
I'm hoping for 8. I mean, the guy's a top 10 pick. I mean,
I think Loveland is more involved in this offense than Luther Burden this first year.
Where this kid was drafted, you're hoping for a Kittle, a Kelsey. I mean, that's what you're hoping for, that impact. That's what you when you're drafting a kid in the top 10 that plays this position, you need him to be top 10 at this position in the NFL.
But they weren't that in their first years. Generally, rookie tight ends have a tough first year, man. That's just kind of the norm. But I do think that Ben Johnson's going to make a concerted effort to get Loveland involved.
Well, he'll play wide receiver in a lot of plays.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I just think Loveland's a lot more involved in this offense to start this year and in this first season than Luther Burden will be. I think Burden's going to have I think it's a lot easier to compete with Komet for snaps than it is to compete with Roma Dunze and DJ Moore for snaps. That's what.
And the Bears never, because guys, we don't have we don't have Mike Evans, we don't have 6'5" wide receiver on this football team. Neither did the Lions.
Now we have Colston Loveland now, Brandon.
The Bears have never had a player for the corner fade. I'm talking about Caleb takes the snap, doesn't even really have to look. You throw that little lob up towards the corner of the end zone, and you let the big guy go get it. That's what Colston Loveland is to me in the red zone. I'd be doing that all day.
Yep, he's the number 1 red zone threat for this team, I think, man. I think as early as week 6 this year, he's going to be highly involved in the red zone. And my number 6 is Cole Kmet. And I think Cole Kmet's still going to have a solid season. But you know me, Brandon. When the Bears drafted Kmet, everybody was pretty happy about it. I wasn't so happy because I just didn't think he was athletic enough. And he showed that his rookie season where he couldn't make plays after he caught the ball. He couldn't extend for the first down. He couldn't come down with those corner of the end zone passes, you know what I'm saying? And then he kind of like 2 years ago, he kind of had that breakout And then last year, he wasn't really involved in the offense. So it's kind of been up and down for Cole Kmet. But one thing that's true about Cole Kmet, Brandon, is he never really drops the fucking ball. He has a great catch rate percentage. And I think Caleb already has a connection with him. So the two tight end sets will be a thing for Ben Johnson in one way or another. And I think Cole Kmet's just going to another guy who's going to be on the field more than Luther Burden, man, especially to start the first half of the season.
You're not going to love where I put. Yeah, I have Colston Loveland 6.
Okay.
And for the reasons you just stated, I think this guy's he's by all measures one of the best route runners on this football team already. And I do think that he's a guy you want to get the ball quick. Those quick release passes, I think Luther Bird and Colston Loveland will benefit from the most. But
100%.
I don't even have Komet 7, man. I don't want to hammer too much on Loveland. You kind of already stated all the things.
And we talked about Komet enough too. Who's your number 7?
Manungai. I think the Bears are going to end up on the goal line a lot. Like fourth, third, first and one, or first and goal, second and goal, third and goal. I think when that happens, Dustin, when the goal line runs come, when you're first, it could be 8 yards, 7 yards, 5 yards. I think Swift won't be on the field.
No, he shouldn't be. He shouldn't be. You need a power back there. Yeah.
I think this leaves Manungai the potential for 7 touchdowns this year, maybe even 8. I don't know. I think this kid could be in the end zone a lot.
Well, this is where we differ a little bit, man, because I like Manungai, and I think he's fully capable of that. But I think Roschon Johnson's going to get the first crack at that role. He was my sleeper guy. I don't have a number 8. Roschon Johnson, for the same things you just said regarding Manungai, I think could be a deep sleeper in fantasy because Ben Johnson has the tape, like I said, from last year, and he sees that Roschon Johnson is capable of powering it in for a yard or two when you need it.
And remember how many touchdowns Montgomery scored on this offense for Ben Johnson.
And remember how many touchdowns Roschon Johnson scored. Like when you got down to the goal line, he was a pretty sure bet to get into the end zone if the offensive line didn't fall on their fucking faces when the ball was snapped. You know what I'm saying? So
when they didn't give the offensive line the ball.
Yeah. When Kramer wasn't running it in, yes, Roschon Johnson was a pretty safe bet to get you those couple of yards you needed. So I think he's still capable of being in that role, and I think Ben Johnson sees that. I think he gets the crack at it before Manungai. But I think either one of them, you can interchange them, and they'll play that same role really well in an offense that's going to need it, man. So, yeah, I agree with you one way or the other.
Yeah, I have Cole Kmet after that. I think Cole Kmet – I think Ben Johnson's going to like Cole Kmet a lot as a blocker. I think that's all be utilized. And, Dustin, I think this will be a very fast-paced offense. I think they're going to do a lot. I think Ben Johnson's going to utilize a lot of no-huddle. I think they're going to do a lot of – they're going to try, like I said, up the pace to keep the defense on their heels and wear them out. And Cole Kmet just isn't athletic enough, man. I see this guy being gassed. I think he'll be the last remaining target on this offense. I do.
Okay, and I guess if we're gonna go one more, just for Kyle, I got to throw it out there. Olamide Zacchaeus, I'll just say his name. I guess he'll get involved in this offense at some point. Somebody's gonna get hurt. He's gonna need to step in, and this guy has shown that he can play in those spots very well. So I mean that could be someone that gets, a couple weeks, he's a pickup guy, if he ends up having to be your starter one week, but I think those are the guys that are
a little different. I was like, man, I hope this segment doesn't just bomb because you have the same exact shit as me.
Yeah. I mean, I think they were pretty similar in some ways, man, and the logic was the same. Again, we're going to get into our top 5 favorite draft picks, so we're going to talk about this guy some more, but Luther Burden, I love him. He's going to be a fucking star for this Bears team. I just don't think that it happens like that for him. I think it takes him a little bit of time. He's going to have to earn it. And this Bears coaching staff is going to be really hard on him to start his career. And that's going to be necessary, I think, to turn him into the player he needs to be. But I don't think he's going to be that in year 1, man. I think year 2 is when he takes off. You want to get into our favorite draft picks of this draft overall?
Let's do that last. I'm excited about that segment. I think that's
okay.
Everything in this show. So let's knock out these headlines and deadlines real quick.
What do you got? Headlines, all deadlines, right. Guys, throw in your answers in the chat if you have any. Brandon's going to throw out some statements. Could be crazy statements. I don't know what they are, so we're all hearing them for the first time together. And we're going to say headline, like you can print that today. That is a worthy statement to make, or deadline, as in not a fucking chance.
All right,
Go ahead.
here we go. I think I wrote 5 this week, man. Headline or deadline. After the draft, it is undebatable that not only did Tennessee fire a good coach in Mike Vrabel, they fired one of the best coaches in the NFL.
Well, that was a headline when it happened. This one's easy. Yeah, it's a clear headline. I mean,
And the impact he's already had on this New England team is just, it's tremendous.
that's why I wanted him as the head coach for the Chicago Bears.
I mean, the Patriots, by all measures, doesn't. I don't know. I'm going to say this, man. I love Bill Belichick. I do. But their drafts were always so unorthodox to me. And then Gerard Mayo is ass. I don't think screw that guy. He had no business being the coach. I don't care what contract they gave him when Belichick was still there. This is the best draft the Patriots have had in a decade. Honestly.
And Fiora says headline. Oh, I mean, Bill Belichick has had some damn good drafts, man. I mean, unorthodox towards the end,
towards his latter
towards
years.
the end. But yeah, let's not throw Belichick under the bus. I mean,
it was just unorthodox.
Shit. I mean, Bill Belichick already has a 24-year-old high maintenance girlfriend to keep happy, and I mean, you don't need to start knocking his draft.
I read that today. He was like defending his girlfriend. Yeah, I'm gonna say headline. I think Mike Vrabel's the top 10 coach in the NFL.
He's a top 5 coach in the NFL, Brandon. He should have, and no, he is, and he should, and I think he was my number 1 choice for the Bears head coaching opening when it was going on. I am happy they got Ben Johnson. He was my number 2, but Vrabel, for what he brings to your team, not just in terms of bringing in talent, in terms of establishing a culture and identity, and having a disciplined team that focuses on the right things that win the games.
Yeah, man, one of the best in the NFL at that.
I mean, I guess top 5 might be a little bit of a stretch, but
that should have been the headline or deadline, because
because then you got to think about it a little bit. There you go. We're workshopping.
Kyle Shanahan, you're telling it's get
Jim Harbaugh, John Harbaugh. We'll throw Nick Sirianni in there if you want. Mike Tomlin.
I think you could probably put guys like Pete Carroll in there as well, man.
I wouldn't put
the old timers. But all right. Shedeur Sanders should be the starter for the Cleveland Browns week 1.
That's a fucking headline. That's easy for me too. These are too easy, man. Did you see Fiora's answered yours?
Yeah, I did. Thanks, Sam.
You said should be. You said should be. You didn't say will be. So those are 2 different things. Do you want it to be will be or should be? Because will he be?
That makes it more challenging. Will be.
Okay. Will be, that's a deadline. That's going to take him a little bit of time. But by the middle of this season, Shedeur Sanders.
I actually did write will. Will start.
Yeah. Thanks, Brandon. Thanks. Listen, will he be at the start of this season? Hell no. And Amphiorus is with us. No way. But by the middle of the season, the cream will rise to the top. This guy will end up showing them that he is their best option to potentially try to win some games, I think.
So we thinking Kenny Pickett? There's no way it's Deshaun Watson, man.
I mean, it still could be, but you also have Joe Flacco there. So I mean, the competition is going to be interesting to see in Cleveland. They got so many things going on, and all they really need. And when you have that many quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks. That's just the reality. So I think Shedeur is the best of that bunch, but I don't think that you can make him just based on his mentality and the way he approaches his things. The best thing you can do for him and for your team is make him fucking earn it. And he needs to earn it. And you need to know that he did the work to earn it. So I don't see the start of the season being the case for him, though.
All right.
I love Shedeur Sanders. I do.
I wanted to add this one, man, because I've now seen a third video of this happening. So I thought it was worth addressing. The prank callers affiliated with NFL organizations. So as we know, one of them was the son of, what was it?
Jeff Ulbrich's son, yeah.
The affiliated with the NFL organizations, there's 3 prank callers this year. Should cost the team at least a cash fine.
I think it should cost them a draft pick.
That is a cash fine or a draft pick. But I was like, Dustin's going to say, hell no, that's too much.
Headline. It should cost them a draft pick. If you let that information get out, I just left my phone on the table and my jackass
that's
son.
ridiculous, man.
Yeah. And then the Falcons weren't going to fucking do anything really about it. It didn't seem like the NFL wasn't, until there was more outcry about it. I think that's a big deal. You're talking about guys who work their whole lives to be in this position, to have this thing happen. And listen, it's not funny. If one of
Well,
the
you're talking about the biggest moment of their life, and you're taking that away from them. You know what I mean? You're kind of
Mhm.
tarnishing
You're
something
not
they should
taking it
remember.
away from them. But here, I'll say this too, man. They're never even fucking funny. They're never even worth watching. They're just like, oh, you're stupid. You're fucking stupid, dude. like
Yeah,
they're just being idiots on the phone. Like you're not funny on top of it. But to get that information, like a phone number that nobody should have but NFL teams, and you let that information get to some jackass kid. Well, I mean, it's just that's unacceptable, and there should be a higher consequence for that, so that it never fucking happens again, in my mind.
and
Because
Fierce agrees. Thank you, and Fierce. He's with us.
important personal information for sure. If you're a manager at a store and at whatever job you do, and you leak personal information about someone who works for you or someone you interviewed to have a job for you to other people like you could potentially get fired for that.
You
That could
would. Yeah,
yes, right? So I
yeah.
mean, like, how does Ulbrich have a job? And when I saw that it was his son, and I texted you, I was like, "This makes total sense. Ulbrich's a total fucking tool, and his kid
You did.
cannot be. His kid won't be better. His kid is worse for sure. I mean, it's just it's not a cool thing to do to a guy who's worked that hard to get into that position to, like you said, tarnish that moment. And also, you got to be responsible for your employer's privacy, yeah, and the people within that building. That's an important thing, man. So yeah, draft pick. You want to fuck with somebody on draft day? Now I'm gonna fuck with you on draft day. Give me your third round pick.
Yeah, yeah, I agree, man. And it's like throwing a glass of red wine on a woman in her wedding dress on the day of her wedding, dude. You're like taking from that. It's their day. It's
Mhm.
special to them, and you're fucking ruining it. You know what I mean? Like, and the I for sure at least cash fine, but I think for sure a draft pick. I think a draft
Oh,
pick should be the
oh yeah,
result.
make it important to the team. Make it
Because
important to
and
the
Dustin,
team.
I asked this, and it became like I wanted to discuss this a little bit because I think that might become a thing. I do. I think like the NFL is going to have to now do something to imply that NFL teams need to protect this information better. Like, dude, you
Well,
cannot let this be going wherever it goes. Yeah. So
and
I'm with you
and
there.
honestly, man, they need to get closer to the vest with all this stuff. I don't like that the draft picks come out on X before they get announced on draft
Yeah.
day.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
like that
annoying as
either.
well. Yeah.
It's ruined the draft on top of it. Like they
Yeah.
just got to keep all the. They got to do a little bit better. Keep all this shit closer to the vest to make that day as as special as it can be for the people being picked and for the people watching and trying to find out what's going
Yeah,
on with
because
their
what's the
team.
point in watching? You could just sit there and
Yeah,
refresh your phone 100 times. There's no point because when it's somebody else. I mean, we saw this. We did a live draft show, guys, and one of the guys who works with us, a co-host on the show, is walking up to us like, "The Browns got Mason Graham." Was like, "Yeah, we knew 10 minutes ago, bro." You
yeah,
know what I mean? It's like, yeah, it kind
yeah.
of
That was funny.
it makes it takes. I don't know. I love the draft, man. It took something out of it because I was just getting text after text like, "Oh, this is what they took." I was
Purple
like, "Damn,
Jesus, what up?
I kind of want to see it." You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, no. Otherwise, you're ruining your brand by allowing that to happen. So they got to
yeah,
get a few of those things under control. But yeah, if you leak that players potential draft picks information to an idiot kid with a cell phone, I mean, like, yeah, there should be more punishment for that. This has got to get deterred, I think.
one Amphier is saying he agreed about picks being leaked 2 picks ahead. Yeah, we're finding out before another team's even on the clock.
Mm-hmm.
We're hearing like it's just it's what's the point of Roger Goodell take? What's the point of all this? You know, this show of this guy
And
walking up
it takes away the fun
with
for
the
us
yeah
too.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like we know Roger, go sit
Yeah.
down.
Yeah, we don't need you. Just
It's whoever that guy was that we were watching on Twitter should just been up there.
who was that? Jordan Schultz. Yeah.
Schultz, yeah. Oh, all right. After trading away the fifth 3626 and next year's first round pick in order to move up to 2 to draft Travis Hunter, the Jaguars gave up too much.
I mean, are you getting 2 first round picks technically, right? Are you getting a first round pick cornerback and a first round pick receiver? Do they really plan on using him on both sides of the ball
That's what he
consistently?
wants.
I, and did he go to a team that wants to give it to him? And did that team give all that up because they want the show? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the GM, they interviewed the GM on NFL Network during the draft. Mayak or something. I don't know. He's a young guy. He's like 32 years old, but
yeah, he looks like the guy
said,
who prank called Shedeur Sanders.
he said he had conversations with Travis Hunter that he will be utilized on both sides of the ball.
For sure. And listen, that's valuable to a franchise. A guy like Travis Hunter can be a star for your team, and he will immediately become the most popular player on that team over Trevor Lawrence, right?
Sell tickets.
Yeah, 100%. But did they give up too much? Fuck yeah, they did. The Browns had one of the best drafts because of that haul. They were able to move back, still get Mason Graham, get a first round next year, and get multiple picks this year. And it's just it's a lot to give up for a guy that's not winning you the games at that quarterback position, man. That's a lot to give up for. And I love Travis Hunter, and I can't wait to watch him excel at cornerback and receiver in the NFL because I've been a proponent of him doing it this entire time. So I'm going to be excited about it. But would I have given that up to get him? I don't think so. Unless I thought I was that guy away from being a championship team. This was more about selling tickets, like you said, versus, you're going to win a Super Bowl. That's the kind of move you make when it puts you over the top. This does not do that for the Jaguars.
I agree with you, man.
And Fioris is on board with us too. And Fioris is participating. Thanks, man.
The Jaguars are so far away from being a successful team. They need so much. They're not the team. If you're a team that has the luxury of
Travis Hunter's a damn good start,
being aggressive and going after that talent, the Jaguars need as many fucking picks as they can possibly.
Let's not understate the fact that Travis Hunter is going to make an impact on this football team.
No, he's a stud. I had him deemed as the best player in the draft.
He was the best player in this draft. So, and they got him. So that meant something, but it was still too much.
All right. After the conclusion of the draft, the Colts will have the first overall pick in the 2026 draft.
Are they starting Anthony Richardson?
Does it matter?
Kind of. I don't know. I mean, so you're saying they're the worst team in the NFL?
Because I thought their draft wasn't very good. Yeah.
I thought it was. I think it's a little better than you give it credit for. I remember thinking that when I saw it. I don't have all the players that they picked in front of me, so I don't know if you have that information since you're asking this question. But I mean, in the AFC South, man, no, I don't think so. I think that they'll find a way to still win 6-7 games in the AFC South because that's a shitty division. That I think you got to think about that. And it really comes down to Anthony Richardson to me. Because their defense is solid enough. Can Anthony Richardson learn how to throw the fucking football? I don't think he can. So
not a chance.
So like that's gonna be losses, right? Because your offense is still gonna be in the mud, even when you add Tyler Warren to that offense. So good for them for getting the tight end finally. First time they've had one since they drafted Eric Ebron, and even he wasn't that damn good. So
oh god, I forgot about that.
Yeah,
good lord, I didn't think that's the first time I heard that name in so
He's
long.
The last tight end for the Colts to have 500 yards receiving in a season, and he sucked.
Yeah, that brought back some memories, man.
Yeah, this is a good point, Amphiorus. I think the Saints are in a much worse spot than the Colts. The Colts always seem to find a way to be competitive in games and dirty it up. So, no, I don't. I'll say a deadline on that, Brandon. I don't think they're the worst team in football.
Okay, I'm going to say headline, man. The reason I put it up there is because obviously that's the way I feel that they are a disaster organization. And you know what, man? I was such a big advocate for so long, man, for probably the first at least full year of his career. But I think Shane Steichen is not a good coach. I do. I lost faith. I think that guy kind of sucks, man. I don't think that he retains that job.
We're talking about it. Tyler Warren, JT Timo Lawa, the defensive end out of Ohio State, Justin Wally, cornerback out of Minnesota, Jalen Travis, offensive tackle out of Iowa State, DJ Giddens, that's a solid pick in round 5 by them. Riley Leonard, sneaky upside potential with Riley Leonard, Brandon. You know I've been saying this. Riley Leonard.
I know you like him, man.
Yeah, he might end up being the starting quarterback for that team, but before the season.
He can run the ball.
Yeah, and he can actually throw it too a little bit better than Anthony Richardson can. So I mean, But yeah, I mean, and Amphioris agrees. Colts coach should be fired. Steichen definitely makes a lot of terrible decisions at crucial points in games. Man, he makes very weird game management decisions. He goes for it when he shouldn't. He kicks a field goal when he shouldn't. Like he just
And then he
always seems to do it the wrong way. To me,
and he didn't like. You had to take the writing on the wall. If you're the coach that listen, your team sucks, and that's what it is. There's no change in that. And he pulled Anthony Richardson and put Joe Flacco in. Joe Flacco played 2 weeks, and then he put Anthony Richardson back. Like, what are you doing, man? What the hell are you doing?
Flacco didn't play that well. I expected Flacco to play better. At
But
least he is a capable thrower of
but
the
were you
football.
putting
But
Flacco in
their
to
offense
try to
wasn't.
make a meaningless playoff run while
No,
letting the guy
yeah,
who's supposed to be your future just rot on the
yeah,
bench?
you were,
None
you
of it
were,
made
you were
sense.
trying to win. You were trying to actually get your receivers involved in the game, which they never were when Anthony Richardson was on the field. Now Richardson had a couple solid games towards the end of that season. Maybe he can carry that momentum into this season. I don't know, man. Moving on. We talked enough about the fucking Indianapolis Colts, I think.
Yeah.
You got another one? No more headlines, deadlines. All right. Well, that was headlines or deadlines, brought to you by River Street Tavern. Go out there on Saturday, Kyle's. So, hey, Brandon, happy birthday, dude! It's your birthday right now.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
No shit. Thanks,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, happy birthday! I
The
meant to
clock
do that.
struck. Yeah.
No, it's yeah. So yeah, guys, it's Brandon's birthday, May 2nd. Kyle's birthday as well. Yeah, I'm hearing Tyler Shuck might be starting for the Saints. Oh shucks, I don't know about that guy at all, man. I don't want
Nice.
20.
As
Yeah.
lame as that was, it was nice.
Let's get into our favorite draft picks, man. I think we can roll into that now. Amphiora says happy birthday. Happy birthday to Kyle as well. Like I said,
Thank you,
River Street Tavern. That's one of our sponsors, guys.
Happy birthday, Kyle.
Go out there on Saturday, hang out with Kyle for birthday bash. Yeah, it'd be a lot of fun. Brandon, who were your? Do you want to go like?
Let's go one at a time.
One at a time. All right. You want to start at 5 or you want to start at 1? I want to start at 1.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, very good. My number 1 favorite draft pick of this NFL draft was Luther Burden to the Chicago Bears at number 39. That was my number 1 favorite pick of this draft, man. I think that the fact that he fell there is crazy. I think he's the second best receiver in this draft behind Travis Hunter. I thought he was better than Ted McMillan this entire time. And the fact that he fell was just a blessing in disguise for a Bears team that's ready to take on the challenge of coaching this kid. They're going to coach him up hard. And when you pair what they're going to do with him in terms of mentality and discipline with his physical traits, you got a star that's ready to be born in Chicago, man. I don't see how you got better value in any pick than Luther Burden at 39 when he could have been a top 10 pick in terms of talent.
Yes, for sure. My number 1 is Jahad Campbell, man. The Eagles, who just won a Super Bowl, traded up to the 31st pick in the draft with the Kansas City Chiefs to take Jahad Campbell. They already have Nolan Smith, Dean, Zach Bond. I mean, this team is already stacked at the position, and they just made it better. They have a potential future defensive captain. This guy probably should have been a top 10 pick. Dustin, on the bare minimum last week, I think we did. My headline or deadline was, could Jahad Campbell be the best player in this draft?
I think he has I think he has the potential to be. Yeah. He's definitely the best linebacker in this draft.
The best football team just got him. So yeah, I gotta say, I think that was the big. I think you're gonna see when it's all said and done, Jahad Campbell could have been a top 3 pick in the NFL draft. I think that's going to be the biggest miss by all the other teams that passed on him for sure.
He was a top 10 player for me in this draft, and he can end up being the best player in this draft, and he's on my list as well. I got him at number 3. It could have been number 2, but my number 2 is Tyler Booker. Tyler Booker to the Cowboys, man. Tyler Booker was another guy who was in my top 10. And it's kind of like my favorite players. Luther Burden was my favorite player at receiver. Tyler Booker was my favorite offensive lineman in this draft. Just watching this guy play, he just beats the shit out of people. He don't like anybody. And he is, if you put him in a phone booth with somebody, he's always going to win. The Cowboys desperately needed that, especially losing. Why am I blanking on his name right now? Zach Martin out of Notre Dame. The guy just retired. And that was the last guard that they took this high in the draft. They took him at 16 in 2014. and they took Tyler Booker at 12. And this guy reminds me of Larry Allen. I think he's going to end up being a top 5 player in out of this draft and potentially the best guard in football. And the Cowboys surprised everybody not going position player, but I love Tyler Booker.
Yeah, and me and you had talked for weeks leading up to the draft, maybe even months, about how in a class that's not phenomenal in regards to the offensive line, I think pound for pound, Tyler Booker was probably the best offensive lineman in this draft. I know he does play the guard position, so he's a little less valuable when it comes to where he's going to line up in the NFL. He's not a tackle. But I think pound for pound, the Cowboys got the kid who's going to win from the guy across from him more than anyone else in this draft.
100%. Yeah, and my number 3 is Jahad Campbell. Like I said, I've compared him to Patrick Willis. This guy's going to be a fucking stud.
Let me throw my number 2 out there.
The fact that he fell to the Eagles is crazy. Go for it.
My number 2 is Luther Bird, because I believe that you absolutely got, if not the best, the second best wide receiver in the draft at 39. And I also don't believe the character issues are as grave a concern as all the NFL GMs that passed on this kid. I think, they said the family thing, his girlfriend's his agent, his mom's a problem. I don't know what that's about. There's nothing to read about that. That's all they say. So I don't know what the hell that means.
Yeah, I don't give a shit about that.
But I think in regards to he played his hardest when a scout was there to see it. Well, of course he did. Of course he did. So I don't know. Luther Burden's going to be just fine, and he's going to make a major impact in the NFL. And guys, I hate to say it, I love DJ Moore. He's here to stay. He's got a big contract, but at some point, Rome Odunze and Luther Burden are going to be your 2 best receivers and the receivers moving forward in Caleb Williams' future. So.
Well, I mean, there is a future without DJ Moore eventually on the Chicago Bears offense, and it's pretty damn nice to know that you got Rome and Luther Burden to replace.
You took care of your future at this position. It's
and your present. And Amfiora says he definitely Xavier Watts at 96. I love that pick as well. I don't have it on my list. That would be
a good one.
That would be on my top 10. I really love what the Falcons did in this draft, man. I know that they gave up a lot to get back into the first to draft James Pierce, but when you need pass rush as bad as the Falcons did, and Raheem Morris is your head coach and he's a defensive coach, that makes a whole lot of sense to get him what he needs to help your defense get after the quarterback. And then taking Watts in the 3rd round, wow.
Yeah, if you're going to limit yourself to 4 picks, they better be the players. You better be the players you took. They took 4 impact players this year.
100% starters for their team. Yeah. All right. So who's your number 3, Brandon?
Number 3 is Will Johnson, man, and I say that just because he suffered an injury. I thought Will Johnson was, if not maybe 2, at this position in the draft. I thought he was possibly the best corner in the draft. But between Jahdae Barron, Will Johnson, and Travis Hunter, the 3 of them were all stud players, man.
Don't forget about Maxwell Hairston, man. That guy is going to be a real pro.
A stud as well, yeah. But I mean, the fact that the Cardinals got this guy as late as they did, it was kind of
But pick 47, right? Pick 47.
Kyle walked up to me during the draft and said he feels bad for him. I mean, the kid's going to the NFL. He's going to get paid a lot of money, and he'll be given an opportunity to show the league how badly they fucked up by not drafting him, man. But I just don't. This never makes sense to me, Dustin. It just doesn't. I know there was an injury concern, but
that's what it was.
This kid's a stud, and you got to be willing to take a chance on somebody in the NFL. Almost everybody suffered an injury at some point in their careers. Everybody probably will. You can't let a talent like this fall as far as it did.
I think he could end up being the best cornerback out of this draft, and for the Cardinals to get him at 47 is a great steal. I didn't put him on my list because I figured you were going to put him on yours. I think that between him, Hairston, and Barron, you got one of those 3 guys will be the best cornerback out of this draft, and the Cardinals obviously got the best value getting their guy in the but it is because he was injured. That's why it happened. Otherwise, he would have been a top 15 pick probably. My number 4, man, and this is my favorite guy at this position, is Quinshon Judkins to the Browns at 33. I just think this guy's going to be a stud in the NFL, man. I think the Browns, I don't think that Dylan Sampson is really going to even compete with him for touches when it's all said and done. Quinshon Judkins has an element to his game that Sampson can never reach. And the Browns have clearly established the fact that they want to ground and pound teams in the AFC North, and Judkins is their key to unlocking that type of offense. Stefanski's going to love him. He's going to get a whole lot of usage, and I really wanted this guy on the Bears. He's my favorite running back in this draft. That's why I got him here.
Yeah, Judkins is a stud. I was kind of hoping the Bears would get an opportunity. If he was there, the Bears would have drafted him. The Browns are not going to be disappointed. The Browns are just developing this. They're manufacturing this offense that never has to throw the ball. They went out and got themselves Tevin Jenkins. You know, they added another tight end and Gunnar Helm on top of Njoku. Or no, not Gunnar Helm. Who did they say?
Harold Fannin. You said that on
Fannin.
Monday too. I never corrected you. Yeah, Harold
Gunnar Helm
Fannin.
went to
Who's better?
Tennessee. Yeah.
Harold Fannin is better than Gunnar Helm.
So they have Njoku, Fannin.
So it's even better than what you were saying. Yeah.
And both guys are capable of blocking too, by the way, both those tight ends. And then they've got Judkins, and then they just threw Sampson on top of it.
The Browns had a hell of a fucking draft, man.
Yeah.
A hell of a draft. The top 3 drafts this year, and I mean they needed it desperately in the cap situation that they're in. They did a damn good job, man. And do you ever notice? I just want to point this out. How like simpatico Amphiorus is with us in terms of like what we're talking. Judkins was his favorite running back, and he's a Michigan fan. Like I feel like every time we're saying something, Amphiorus is like, "Yeah, that's exactly how I feel too." It's like, "Hey, man, thanks for being here. We appreciate you." Just wanted to show you.
Amphiorus is the shit.
Yeah.
One of my that's crazy. Like one of the first happy birthdays I received this year. You were the first, Dustin. Amphiorus is the second happy birthday I received this year, so that's pretty fucking cool.
Hell yeah, Amphiorus. And honestly, I mean, we're simpatico, Brandon. Our lists are kind of very similar already.
I changed mine just to not have the same thing.
We didn't discuss this ahead of time or anything. You know, it's not like we shared these players with each other. So
I did change my last one though, because I was like, man.
Well, who's your number 4?
My number 4 is going to be the same position Will Johnson plays, and just because of where he went, Jahdae Barron fell to number 20, man, which surprised
son of a
me.
bitch.
It did, and you're putting this guy across from one of the already best existing defensive backs in the NFL.
And his player comp was that guy. His player comp coming out of college was that guy.
Yeah, this is nasty, man. I mean, Denver just locked this down. They already have because of this pick, they have one of the best secondaries in football. I don't know if you're a quarterback, you shouldn't feel comfortable throwing either side. I mean, this is going to get nasty.
And that's the point. Jahdae Barron, I didn't put him on my list because I knew you were going to talk about him, I think. But I have him as an honorable mention. Him going to Denver is just crazy. And that makes a strength, just an unstoppable strength for that Denver team, man.
Yeah, Pat Surtain and Barron is going to be frightening for any quarterback. And in a division, man, where you're playing Patrick Mahomes. You know what I mean? You're playing Jim Harbaugh. You're playing Pete Carroll.
Justin Herbert.
Yeah, you're playing guys that coaches too that can exploit weak defense and exploit man and zone. So you just got a guy that can cover both.
Barron is going to be the best cornerback out of this draft. I think when it's all said and done, Barron is that guy. And you know, Will Johnson, I thought was that guy for a little bit, but the more I started watching Jahdae Barron, the guy does everything, and he does it all really well. So yeah, he's a fucking stud.
I had the same number 5 as you, man, but I changed it just to make this a little more interesting. So go ahead, throw it out there.
Well, my number 5 is Shedeur Sanders going one.
Well, actually, you hold on. Let me go first because we're gonna dive a little deeper into that.
Way to go, Brandon.
My number 5 is Jalen Milroe, man. I don't believe that Sam Darnold's going to be the same player in Seattle that he was in Minnesota. I like Kevin O'Connell. I think that's where the success came from. He also had Justin Jefferson. I mean, he had a plethora of weapons in Minnesota to throw the ball to. Darnold was overpaid, unfortunately. Good for him, but unfortunate for the Seahawks. I think Jalen Milroe could potentially, Dustin, be an eventual starter in the NFL. I like the size of this kid. He's got a big arm. He's pretty humble. He's always had a positive attitude. I think he was really slept on. He got drafted higher than I expected him to be because I just didn't think anybody even knew who this kid was. Like, he was forgotten.
Well, he didn't help himself with how he performed at Alabama this past season.
He plummeted a little bit. He regressed. But I think with some quality coaching, if this kid is given the time to sit on the bench behind a bridge quarterback, which I believe Darnold to be, I think Milroe could potentially be a starter in the NFL.
Okay. I mean, he's got speed for sure. And I mean, that's an interesting one.
Big arm.
Howie R. Bears, what up? Thanks for joining us, my man. Hit that like button. Everybody in the chat, please hit the like. If you're watching us on Twitter, thank you for being here, or X, or whatever we want to call it. Thank you for being here as well. But if you're in YouTube, hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed. Get all the content from us. Yeah, man, I like Jalen Milroe too, and I think he's a sneaky pick, but he would not be anywhere near my top 20 favorite picks of this draft. Shedeur Sanders
I
falling
just
to
think Seattle needed to address it, man.
yeah, Shedeur Sanders falling to 144 in this draft was insane. Now he did it to himself, but the Browns were the beneficiaries of this. I was just talking about how good of a draft the Browns had, and we were just talking about that. You trade out a number 2 and you get Mason Graham at number 5. You get a first round pick next year. You get multiple draft picks in this draft on top of it. And then you still end up with Shedeur Sanders at 144. Correct? It was 144, right? That was his pick.
Yep.
Yeah. And so let me make this point. It would have been totally understandable, given the situation the Browns are in. Deshaun Watson is a train wreck. He is overpaid. They're in cap hell because of the contract they gave him. It would have been totally understandable and respectable to me had they just stayed at number 2 and taken Shedeur Sanders. That's how good this draft pick is. They could have taken him at number 2, and I wouldn't have blinked an eye at it. I would have said that was the pick they needed to make. And they got him at 144 after they drafted another quarterback before him. This was an absolute robbery to me.
Yeah, it was criminal, and I agree with you. And to come away with what I believe to be a top 3 running back in this draft and a top 2 quarterback in this draft, and acquire at the best defensive tackle in this draft, and acquire all the capital you got, including a first round pick next year, and you get the second best quarterback in the draft. I mean, they worked wonders, man. Cleveland changed the trajectory of their organization in one draft, Dustin. I really believe that
100%.
this team
Yep.
was so screwed for so long until this draft.
Yeah, they had no future. Like they had no
I was
future.
thinking you're talking about 10 years of just disaster and purgatory for this team.
And they re-signed Myles Garrett before this draft too. What a huge thing that was.
Yeah, and now you got Mason Graham and Myles Garrett in the same.
Oh my God!
And they have a good defense. They do. They have a good head coach. This team could surprise people.
Yeah,
they're going to compete. They're not going to be
heavy.
A playoff team. They're going to compete.
They're going to lean heavy on the run. And so we got Isaiah in here. I've never seen you before, my man. Thank you for joining us. Hit that like button if you haven't already.
Isaiah?
Make sure you're subscribed. Get all the content from us all week.
We want Nick Chubb too.
I've been talking about Nick Chubb for a while now, and I would not be opposed to him. I think it's a low risk, high reward move, man. That would be. I think the Bears need a little more help in the running back room as well. Chubb, veteran, could be a very good mentor for a guy like Monungai and Roschon Johnson. Amfiora says Sanders is where we disagree. Good college quarterback, but decision making is slow and doesn't have a strong arm. Don't think he has it to make it in the NFL. Listen, I there's some valid points there, but when he makes the decision, he's one of the most accurate. He was the most accurate quarterback in college football. And it's not like he was playing with a bunch of studs at Colorado. He had one good receiver in Travis Hunter and nothing really else besides that. His offensive line was shit. I think that if you put him behind a good offensive line with a coach who puts him in a West Coast system, which is what I was saying before the draft, and that's what you got now in Kevin Stefanski with the Cleveland Browns, you're putting him in the best possible position to succeed, where he doesn't have to think much because you're that decision-making. Amphioris, I agree with you there. But you 1 read, 2 read max, get the ball out. You're going to be super accurate when you do it, and guys make plays after the catch. And you got Jerry Jeudy, and you got Njoku, and then you drafted Harold Fannin. There's some potential here for Shedeur Sanders, if once he eventually gets the starting job for the Cleveland, which he will, to really be a better quarterback than a lot of his detractors think on the football field.
How you let off there, man. Most people, I don't think that gets enough appreciation. This kid led the NCAA in completion percentage. He completed the highest percent of passes in the NCAA.
74% completion.
And he had one player worth throwing the ball to, man. I mean, it's just...
How many players were drafted out of Colorado? How many players were drafted out of Colorado?
I think just the 2.
The 2.
Yeah. And last year there was 0. He was on that team last year.
Yeah.
So I mean, this guy hasn't been surrounded by NFL talent
37
like
touchdowns, 10
and I
interceptions.
think Dustin,
Man,
that's why Will Howard fell as far as he did to the Steelers, because it's like, how much did Will Howard have to do? You
I
hand it
think,
off to
well,
two of the best running backs in this draft. You're throwing the ball to two of the best receivers in college football. I mean, like, between Jeremiah Smith, like Emeka Buka, Judkins, and Travion Henderson, Will Howard was just surrounded by talent. It's like, how good did Howard have to be? He just had to throw the passes when they were there. You know what I mean?
I think we got some good comments here to transition us because I think it's clear that Shedeur Sanders has the talent on the field. Whether or not everybody has deficiencies, Cam Ward has deficiencies in his game that are going to need to get coached out of him for him to be successful in the NFL. But what it came down to with Shedeur was his attitude, was his interviews,
His
was
approach
his
was all
approach,
bad.
his dad trying to dictate what was going to happen. I mean, those are the things that really led to this fall. And you got Amphiora saying, I actually think Shuck will be better. Nothing great, but back up to low end starter. I don't think Sanders will be able to be starter material. Definitely want to see which one of us is right. That's more of that play on field stuff. He also says, sounds like Case Keenum in college. Well, Case Keenum was a starting quarterback for a Vikings team that went to the playoffs and beat the Saints. So I mean, that was decent enough. I'm not saying Shedeur Sanders is going to tear the world up and be fucking Lamar Jackson, but I am saying that he could be a Teddy Bridgewater level player, which is enough. And then Howie is saying, how does Miami, Indy, Carolina, Vegas, all these other teams not take Shedeur in round 3? How about in round 2? How about in round 4 before round 5? So let's
Where
get
I I
into
thought
why
I
he
thought
dropped.
I thought the second round, Pittsburgh really should have taken Shedeur Sanders. I think so. This is
My
what I think
biggest knock
after
on their
years.
draft, man.
I think this is a weak draft class in regards to quarterbacks. I love Cam Ward. I do. It's not. He's not just the best in a bad bunch. I think Cam Ward was an NFL starting quarterback in any draft class. But I do think that the rest of it's pretty. It falls off pretty hard, except for Shedeur. Shedeur is kind of right in between. And this is what I think about Shedeur. I think Shedeur Sanders was plugged into a good system. He's a quarterback that can make plays. I
Yep.
mean, the guy is obviously a playmaker. He can ball out.
Stefanski has that system, Brandon.
If he
He does.
goes, but I thought if he went to Pittsburgh, where you've got DK Metcalf and George Pickens, I thought that was perfect, man. I really did. I thought he could have plugged in as a starter week 1 and succeed. And they have a good offensive line there too.
That would have been scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like it came down to teams not. It was two things, right? Teams not really being that high on this quarterback class, like you said, and looking to next year and saying we're just gonna plug the hole from the sinking ship this year, and then next year we'll actually fix it.
Yeah,
That
you
was
got
kind of
two who are the two next year. Two quarterbacks are like potential Hall of Famers as far as everyone's concerned. We'll see how that goes.
so. I think it was that, and then it came down to Shador's personality just rubbing people the wrong way. And listen, you can say the guy is who he is, and he approached it the way he wanted to approach it, and that's okay for him. But you also have to deal with the consequences of that, right? So, like, you can say I'm going to be myself, and you can accept me or not, and I'm all for it, man. I love confidence. I love you. I love a person who's confident in who they are. But at the same time, there is a game that we got to play when we go to a job interview, guys. And if you choose not to play that game, you can't get upset when you don't get the job. And you can't just scream racist when you don't
Yeah,
get the
this
job.
this is
You
this
you
is
you have to acknowledge what you did wrong in order to keep you from getting that job. You can't go into your employer, your potential employer, and say, "Look, I don't know why you wouldn't want to hire me. I'm going to be the best thing that's happened to your restaurant since sliced bread." So like I don't even need to answer your questions. You already have seen what I can do. Like and they don't hire you, that you have to accept some responsibility in that, Brandon.
yeah, and I think that's it, Dustin. I think this if Shedeur Sanders fails, it will be because of this. When he didn't get drafted in the first 3 rounds, his response to that was concerning. He was pushing off the responsibility as if it wasn't his own fault. He
I
he
don't
said
think he did that.
it's he
I don't
said he
What
said
do you
it's
got for
the
examples of that?
he said it's the name. Y'all want to hate on me just like you did my dad because of my name. I don't think it's got anything to do with your name, man. I think it's got a lot to do with the way you handle yourself. And even in this interview right now, while you're stating right there on the podium that it's because of your name, you're still not accepting the fact. You're still not taking responsibility for the way you behave. You've got to understand that what you're doing is not good for you. How have you not
Yeah,
wrapped
for
your head
sure.
around this yet? And then, yeah, I never heard him say anything regarding race. I heard a lot of NFL analysts saying this, and there is a precedence for
Mhm.
this, Dustin. We've stated this. This is a
Black
thing in the
quarterbacks
NFL.
have quarterbacks have been blackballed in the NFL throughout the entirety of its history. That is a real thing that exists, and I understand that completely. Not smart enough to play the position was the thing back in the day, even leading into the '90s, bro. Like that's how recent this shit was. But I mean, you're looking at Caleb Williams just drafted number one overall. Jaden Daniels right behind him. The quarterback who was taken number one overall in this draft, Cam Ward, an African American. That stance is changing a little bit, and I do understand the history there, and like to the extent that I can. But at the same time, like you have your abilities, that's one part of it, and then you have your availability, that's another part of it, right? And then you have your character. You're not just judged on one thing. You're judged on multiple things to be an NFL quarterback. Can you be a leader? And teams are looking for certain traits in leaders, man. They just are. So if you want to show them that you can be that person, you got to show them those traits. And if you
Well,
don't, you choose not to, that really falls on you at the end
yeah,
of the
in the
day. And
first
you got to take that responsibility to be that leader.
and like in anything, Dustin. I mean, you could talk about like
Yeah.
war or sports, wherever it takes a group of men to accomplish something. If you have one person that puts themselves before the rest, it's not going to work.
Mhm.
And I think that
Especially
was
if
the
that
biggest.
person is the leader of your
Yeah,
offense.
I think that was
Yeah.
the biggest concern for these NFL GMs is this more about you, Shedeur? And then I don't know if you saw today they released where Brian Dable had him in a room just going over the blackboard, the plays, the X's and O's. He didn't do very well, and I'm guessing because this guy
When
was
he made mistakes, he didn't own up to them. When he didn't know the information, he didn't really try to learn. It didn't seem, yeah, yeah, for sure.
no,
Like
he wasn't doing his
he
homework.
wasn't, he wasn't, and he
Clearly,
wasn't okay with being called out on it. He
yeah,
wasn't like, and that shows accountability, right? When you're okay with being, yeah, you're right, you got me. How can I get better here? That's what you want to hear in that situation, right?
yeah. I don't think that it's a 100% correct test. You know, what I mean, I don't think they're sitting there like you need to be right every time we ask a question. I think it's how do you handle it when you're not? And if we,
Exactly.
yeah, and if we come back to, will you get it right the next time? But he didn't show that. So
Howie says worst part of it is I think Shador is a good dude, but it's that he isn't being his true, genuine self. He's not his dad. Be yourself. Points out Doug Williams in the '82 Super Bowl with the Redskins. Yeah, and
I
Randall
agree with you there,
Cunningham.
Howie. I think that he is trying to emulate
It's
the
like this.
persona of his
Yeah, it's like
father.
this. Or
Like he
or,
feels
or
obligated.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like he's got to be prime time 2.0.
Yeah.
Yeah, like and no, you don't need to be that. And there's all that. Listen, they're posting stuff now where he's working out on a hill. He's already in Cleveland. If this dude comes in and gets down to business, Brandon, that is going to be scary for the NFL. Teams will regret passing on him, and I really hope that they do because again, I've been a big fan of his, and I think he can be a good quarterback in the NFL. It comes down to that accountability, responsibility, and discipline, man. You can do whatever you want. You cannot hit the books. You cannot be in the film room studying when no everybody else is asleep. But it's you're not going to be as good as the guys that are doing that. That's just the reality of it. Like Tom Brady consistently was outworking everyone around him. And if you want to be that level of player, that's what you have to commit to. If you choose not to commit to that, that's okay. Just don't be upset with the results in terms of where your draft stock falls or how you perform on the football field because you got to put that work in to get those results, man.
Yeah. I
You
mean,
have
I'm
to.
I'm a firm believer, Dustin. If you want to be the best at anything, do it the most.
Mhm.
And
Put in the work.
Michael Jordan shot 1,000 shots on a court before a game. I mean, we saw the results. Tiger Woods was playing golf at 3 years old. He was out there every day with his dad, playing for spending 12 hours a day out in the sun playing golf. I mean, you have to do these things. You have to live it, breathe it. It's your religion. And you know what? Cam
Awesome
Ward
fact.
treats this sport this way. Cam Ward has that approach. Cam Ward lives and breathes football. He's worked his ass off to get where he's at. He loves the sport. It's clear that he loves the game more than himself.
And I don't think Shedeur and Cam Ward are that far apart in terms of talent, Brandon.
No, I don't either. I think that Shedeur Sanders might have been the most talented quarterback in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
He has an arsenal that he has a set of tools that Cam Ward will never have, but Shedeur just doesn't have the approach. And like you said, Dustin, if he decides to get his head out of his ass, he could be a really good football player. And I'm with you, Howie. I don't hate. A lot of people just hate on Shedeur Sanders. And like I said, guys, I want to make sure this is stated. I never heard Shedeur Sanders say this is all racist, that I wasn't picked. I've heard a lot of NFL analysts say this. I don't believe it to be the truth. I didn't hear Shedeur cry that. Shedeur just basically said, y'all hate me because my dad is who he is. I don't believe that either. I just think you rub people the wrong fucking way, dude. That's
Brandon, and when you talk about his dad, none of us will ever understand that. Growing up in that shadow, trying to be that person, that's your biggest role model, obviously, and that's a great role model to have in my mind. Honestly, Deion Sanders has gotten a lot of shit done in his life, and trying to live up to that's hard. It might take you a while to find yourself, and he needs to be in Cleveland maybe to find himself, and hopefully he fucking does. And hopefully he steps into the role of a leader and figures it out, because he's everywhere he's gone for the last, for his entire career. His dad's been there. His dad ain't going to be in Cleveland. His dad's got to coach a team in Colorado. So, I mean, like, Shedeur's got an opportunity to find himself here and figure this thing out. But we can't know what that's like, man. And we never will.
He's a kid. People forget that. He's a young guy, man. He's got a lot to learn. He's not even a fully developed individual, but also, man, you're gonna know this quickly, because there's 5 quarterbacks on this fucking football team, and if Shedeur Sanders isn't named the starter week 1, how he responds to that will dictate how the rest of his career goes.
Yep, you're not defined by your successes. You're defined by your failures. Now, this is one here in this draft, right? And I'll say this, man. When I saw pictures on X of him partying and throwing this giant party for being drafted in the 5th round, if that were me, that was too much to me. If that were me, and I expected to be a 1st round pick, and I know I'm a 1st round talent, and I didn't, and I fell to the 5th round, I ain't celebrating shit. I'm just not, man. I'm gonna be at home figuring out what the fuck I did wrong and how to do better, man. Like, I just really am. I don't think there's anything to celebrate there. You want to celebrate victories in life, but if you're a 1st round talent that goes in the 5th round, that's not a victory.
Yeah,
and that kind of shows the mentality that needs to be flipped there, I think.
I'm going to call Kevin Stefanski, say, send me that playbook. I'm going to make sure that I'm the starter over all the other 4 guys on this roster. That's what I'm doing from night 1, man.
And to his credit, he's in Cleveland. He's working out. I think that this has a chance to be an awesome redemption story in the NFL. And this dude's jersey is already the #1 selling of anybody in the draft. Like, he is a polarizing figure, and he has a lot of supporters, and rightfully so.
His jersey's retired in Colorado.
And he has a lot of detractors, man. I think a lot of the detractors, though, do come from the fact that he is Deion's son and think he was handed everything. Right now, he has a chance to earn it on his own, and that's a huge obstacle for him to have to overcome.
And that's another thing that bothered me. A lot of people who just tend to dislike Shedeur were all like, "Oh, this kid, he's a young guy, he gets the NIL deals, and it goes to his head." Like, this dude he grew up in wealth. There's no way that you could convince me that, like, the money he made through NIL deals, like, got to, like, if he was freshly exposed to wealth, and that's where he lost his way. The guy's dad was rich. He didn't.
Yeah, and his dad. There's no way his dad didn't make him earn shit in his life. Yeah. Deion Sanders does not strike me as that dude that just spoils his kid.
He basically made you fight somebody if you wanted a number on his football team. Do you know that? He's like, yeah, you got to go out there and you got to clash. Like, I'm gonna make you go over there, and you got to run at each other. Whoever wins gets that number. Like,
Oklahoma drill.
This dude makes you compete, man. That's what it is.
Listen, him falling to the 5th round, Dylan Gabriel going before him, Jalen Milroe going before him, Tyler Shuck going before him. You can make an argument for Jackson Dart going before him. I think it's all criminal in terms of talent. But I see what he did, man. He tanked himself And
Self-sabotage, yeah.
yeah, and I don't know if he realizes it or not. And maybe he just wants to be who he is, and that's okay. But again, the results will be the results from that. If you just put in the work and work your ass off and make it, you know, without a question, you're the best quarterback option for this team. You're in a great potential scenario with an awesome run game, a really good offensive line in Cleveland, a solid defense, and Kevin Stefanski, who runs an offensive system that will build on your strengths and you can shine in that system. Jameis Winston looked good in that offense at points last year. Shedeur Sanders can be a stud in that offense, man. I really believe that.
Yeah, and they added weapons, man. I mean, the offense that was already good got better. They
Yeah.
acquired Jerry Jeudy halfway through the year. He had a phenomenal finish to his season. Like I said, they drafted a tight end in Fannin, who by all measures looks like he's going to be a quality pro at best. And you got two running backs. They added Sampson after Judkins. I mean, that's outrageous, man. I was hoping the Sampson would follow the Bears after they missed on Judkins. The Browns took my running back twice.
The Browns had a really good draft, man. And
Yeah.
I think Shador's in a really solid situation, and I just hope he can figure it out, man. And I don't think that making excuses right now is what Shedeur Sanders needs. I don't think he needs people making excuses for him. I think he needs to accept his responsibility in this, and I think he just needs to go out there and prove everybody wrong, which I think he's
And
totally capable of.
and most importantly, Dustin, the individuals who are out there, whoever it might be, claiming that what's occurred is a disgusting display of racism amongst that's got to stop, man. You have to mention how this kid behaved and what he did to tank his own draft stock. That has to be mentioned.
You have to
You
mention that
cannot neglect
Dion was a
to
problem
see
in
that.
teams' minds too. You have to acknowledge that Dion was a problem in teams' minds too, in
Yeah.
terms of trying to dictate where he was going to go, right? And you have to acknowledge the fact that this quarterback class was weak enough that people said, "I'm going to sit this one out this year. I'll
And,
find a
and
backup in this draft, and I'll figure it out next year."
and even if you believe there was some racist intent there, you still have to say to yourself, well, he also acted like an ass. You know what I mean? Like he just
Yeah,
did. His interviews in front of the media weren't good. His interviews with GMs and coaches one on one weren't good. They came out immediately after it and just said, "Yeah, this guy rubbed me the wrong way, dude."
and
When you
I
do,
was trying not to buy into that hype at the time that all that stuff was being reported, Brandon.
so
I
did I,
really
because
was.
the first time I read it was from a shit source that I never. I
Yeah,
was like,
I
this
mean,
is,
this
yeah,
kid's confident in himself. He knows who he is. I mean, and I think that will pay off for him in the long run. But he also has to find some modesty too to be a leader, to put other people before him. Like that's just the reality. And to be a good quarterback in the NFL, you got to do that. You know what I'm saying? The best have always done that. They've put the work before everything else. If you're gonna focus on making songs and living the high life, man, go for it. That's fine, but just understand that that's gonna be your football production is gonna be sacrificed because of that. That's just the natural result. Howie says he's a huge draft numbers guy, standard deviation spreadsheets on all rookies. He thinks Sampson and Fannin are busts, according to his math. Colber's another new guy in the chat I never seen before. Says Sampson I like, but Fannin not as much. I think he's going to require a very specific plan to succeed. I mean, you got Njoku there, so I mean, like I don't know what their plan is for Fannin. Again, it's going to be interesting to see what the Browns do. But I think
well, and
Judkins
Fannon's
is
is
the clear
I
number
think,
one back. I don't. Jerome Ford can fuck off. I don't think he's very good. I think he's an average guy. Quinshon Judkins is a stud.
well, and I don't want to
I don't
lose,
think Sampson is anywhere close to his talent level either. I think
and I don't want you
Judkins
to
is the guy.
misperceive why I think Fannon's good for this football team because Fannin is a great inline blocker. You're going to run the ball 35 times a game on this football team.
No, yeah, they're trying to help that offensive line that
Yeah,
Howie's
you
talking
want
about here.
you want Fannin at the end of the line next to your tackle. I mean, this he's a big dude. He can make plays. He can make plays if the pass game opens up. But he's a blocker, and I think this team is trying to get the best blocking in front of the two backs they just drafted as they possibly can.
Well, listen, the Browns are going to do what the Browns do. I'm excited for this Bears season, man. I think we touched on a lot when it comes to this Bears. This offensive line is much improved.
Yeah,
I'm
guys, if you joined the show late, jump back and watch it from the beginning, guys. This was a fun one. We talked about how much the Bears offense improved. Good conversation as always, Dustin.
Howie, I'd be interested in, and we're going to be finishing this show up, but if you can even leave it in the comments, if you got your math on these Bears picks, where do you think they fall? You're talking about bust out of Samson and Fannin. You got the Bears in your title there. Tell me what you think of the
Colston, Loveland.
Ozzie Trapillo pick, the Colston Loveland pick, the Shamar Turner pick, the Zay Frazier pick, which I liked an awful lot. The Bears had a damn good draft. I mean, we can bitch and nitpick and complain that they didn't get a safety or an edge, which those things are important, and I wanted them, but they did add some very key talent to this team, I think. Yeah, Bears picks, Howie. That's what I'm talking about. They did add some very key talent to this team, I think, in some places that they needed it. I'm happy. I'm happy with this Bears draft.
You know what's funny, man? When the draft was said and done, safety and edge especially was like, man, I just wonder, are the Bears going to regret that? Almost all the fans that I heard, all the fans that reached out to me, all of my friends and anybody who watches the Bears in regards to this draft, it was more about the running back they didn't get. So to me, it's just like I understand why the running back thing played the way it did. The guys fell right before the Bears picked. It's the edge thing that just kills me, man.
Yeah, no, I think they needed some pass rush help, man. But as Colbert says here, absolutely love Ozzie. My guy. I was ecstatic the first 2 days. So was I, man. Burden is my favorite pick of this draft. Like I said, I think he's going to be a stud for the Bears. It's going to take him a little bit of time to come on. Ozzie Trapillo, they're talking today about him being, or yesterday, sorry, at this point, about him getting an opportunity at that left tackle spot. I think Braxton Jones is very replaceable. Can Ozzie step up and take that job? That would be amazing. But a lot of people are saying this, what Howie's saying right there, right tackle only, wide zone scheme. He's also not a guard. Yeah, he's way too big to be a guard, cannot get leverage on a defensive tackle from that height and coming out of his three-point stance. He says Ozzie was a bad pick. Dane Brugler had Ozzie number 90, not number 56. I'll say this, man. If I was going to go offensive line at 56, I would have gone Tate Ratledge over Ozzie Trapillo. That was my take from the very beginning. As soon as they made that pick, Tate Ratledge should have been the guy, I think, with that pick. But I think Trapillo is a little bit better than how he's given him credit for. And this guy could end up being the starting left tackle. All I'm saying is, overall, you can nitpick about them not getting the 3-down running back, but it just never worked in their favor, right? And you can nitpick about them not getting that defensive end, but it didn't fall their way in that regard. The way it fell, they played that board really well. They got solid value on 7 out of 8 picks. They had one pick I did not like. That one pick I really kind of hated. Other than that, I loved the rest of their picks. I think they got a steal in Zay Frazier, Luke Newman, and
once
Kyle
again,
late in this draft, man.
And once again, Dustin, and this Ben Johnson had a lot to do with this, but I mean, we've seen Ryan Poles do this. This is 3 years in a row now, Dustin. I mean, when I thought they needed a Jalen Carter, they took a Darnell Wright because that's who he had on his board. When I thought they could have used a lot of different things, they took Roma Dunze because that's who he had on his board.
They could have used the Jared Verse.
When I thought they could have used a Shamar Stewart or a Mikael Williams this year, they took a tight end. I mean, Ryan Poles has shown us one thing consistently. Their board, his coaches and his board, that's what they're doing.
That's what you need.
Going to steer. Yeah,
you got to stay true to your board. Yeah. At the end of the day, you do all that work for a reason. And the way the board falls, you got to stick with it.
I mean, they could have taken Hampton or Mikael Williams. They could have taken a position that or a safety. They could have taken
Howie is very
yeah.
Howie is very down on this Bears draft. I got to disagree with you, man. Luke Newman, pure failure. I mean, 417 pass block snaps at Michigan State, 0 sacks allowed. That says something. That says something. I mean, to get him in the 6th round, I mean, if you had taken him in the 2nd round, maybe it's a bad pick, pure failure. But the guy in the 6th round, he could be your backup guard on either side. And the Bears really liked his reps at center too when they worked him out. So I mean, like that, I think this guy is a versatile offensive lineman that can help the depth of this offensive line in a major way and fill in if he needs to. 31-inch arms, small, tiny wingspan, 3rd smallest in the NFL, tied with Doug Kramer. Okay. For sure. We're going to see how it goes, man. I think the Bears, they obviously could have gone in a lot of different directions, but the direction they went was offense. They wanted to focus on getting Caleb Williams everything he needed, getting Ben Johnson everything he needed to have them be as successful as possible this season. And we're going to see how it works out.
We
It's
got
going to be a
50 in the
fun.
building, man.
Yeah, man. This
And
has
we
been a
appreciate the insight, man, for sure. Howie, that's awesome that you do all that homework, man, for sure. Thanks for everybody who's watching, man. Please, 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 guys, hit the like. And if you're not subscribed, guys, we've seen a lot of new names in here tonight. Please hit that subscribe. Yeah, Hippolyte, man. Yeesh. It's just,
yeah.
I just,
Howie's saying, "Can I ask Will Campbell?" I mean, are you asking what I think of Will Campbell, or are you saying like you didn't like Will Campbell? I'm confused. I love Will Campbell. I think the guy can be a left tackle in the NFL, regardless of his arm length. I don't give a shit what
I think
anybody
the
says.
Patriots won't regret making that pick.
No, not at all, man. I think the Patriots had a hell of a draft, like you said. So, and the Bears. With the Bears, I ended up giving them an 86 out of 100, basically, in terms of my grades overall. So it was a solid B when it's all said and done. The Hippolyte pick really hurt their draft, but in terms of grading it, but they have guys that can be starters on this roster here sooner rather than later. Give it a few years. Let's see how these guys pan out. But this year is going to be a lot of fun, Brandon.
Absolutely. And after all this, after the show's said and done, Dustin, I think the offense is vastly improved.
Yeah, no. To answer our question on our thumbnail, we both think that this offense is vastly improved, starting with the offensive line, adding these weapons that they've added. It's going to be a lot of fun. There's going to be some fireworks this season. 4-Star Chicago Sports is going to be with you all the way. This Saturday, we got the Northside 9 with Sean and Kyle. Monday, we got the Hallis Hall Hangover. That's every Monday. It's all four of us together. Wednesday, the Barely There. Again, 4starchicagosports.com. Putting up all kinds of articles and blogs up there straight from us, guys. Go check that out. You can get every new show. The YouTube channel, man. Make sure you're subscribed. If you're not subscribed, what the hell are you doing? Hit that like button, man. While you're in here, please hit that like button. We appreciate everybody for being in here. Howie, thanks for joining us tonight. Colbers, Amphioris, always riding with us. He's a G. We had Bruce in here earlier. Ant Mass, Rocket Cream, Notorious TBG, Foster Covers. Been a hell of a fun night talking Bears with you, Brandon. We appreciate everybody. Have a great rest of your night. 4-Star Chicago Sports. Bear down.
Thanks, guys. Bear down.
Have a great night.